This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Just do one thing for me. Get Mendoza.
With the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select
This is the Fan Morning
Fernando
Show
Mendoza,
with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Indiana.
Just do one thing for me. Get Mendoza.
With the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders
This
select
is the Fan Morning
Fernando
Show
Mendoza,
with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Indiana.
Just do one thing for me. Get Mendoza.
All right, once again, Mark wrestling with two computers at once.
I mean,
they're just
audio's
firing it off.
flying everywhere right now.
They're just firing it off again. I don't know what's going on there, but good morning, Mark Dykton.
Well, I
Welcome into
worked
the
really
wrestling
hard
match.
on that open, and now it's who knows what happened.
See, I think it's all just karma. All the WWE stuff. The computer's like, I'll wrestle you. I'll take you to the mat. I'll throw you over the top rope.
Give me an easy Friday, computer.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome into the Fan Morning Show. It's the day after the night before. The night before being, of course, the first round of the National Football League 2026 draft as expected. Fernando Mendoza goes number one overall from Indiana to the Las Vegas Raiders. Good morning, Kevin Bowen. Good morning, James Boyd. Mark Dykton. Good luck today. We hope things work out well for you.
I enjoyed my draft night last night. I don't know what the hell happened just now, but I enjoyed draft night last night.
All right. So, James Boyd, I know you spent the evening over at West 56 just on the chance that something might happen for the Colts.
Yeah, the job is to show up. So that's where I was hanging out with the rest of the crew. Pretty chill night of us just cracking jokes and writing stories about what could happen today.
All right. And Kevin Bowen, any thoughts on the first round of the NFL draft? Two Notre Dame running backs taken along with Fernando Mendoza, and Omar Cooper Jr. does get selected in the first round.
Yeah, and Mark obviously referencing Dylan Thieneman there. So from a local prospect standpoint, maybe a little bit further down the round one board than we originally thought. But indeed, both the local guys do go in round one there. Dylan Thieneman going to the Chicago Bears, and then a trade back into round one by the New York Jets. And that is where Omar Cooper Jr. goes. So pretty incredible. You know, both of their individual stories, and to see each of them end up going into round one, pretty amazing from the Westfield and Lawrence North product there. Mark Dykton, you edge rusher what you wanted, but safety seemed like a need as well.
Yeah, edge rusher would have been nice, but when Thieneman started falling, I'm like, ooh, could that be someone that the Bears could target at 25? Because they did lose some secondary help. So when he did fall to 25 and they took him, I was very, very happy with that selection. So edge rusher, they have 2 second-round picks tonight. They can get that there, hopefully.
I did love the whole Thieneman family, obviously in the green room there, and his brothers and siblings, and just the support from everyone. And then when they panned to Atlanta for Omar Cooper Jr. with his family, I did love the Catch of the Year shirts they were rocking down there in the ATL. So A.D. Mitchell, Omar Cooper Jr. for whatever the Jets are going to do at quarterback here in the coming years. So again, number 30 overall for Cooper. D'Angelo Pons still on the board as we wake up here on this Friday morning. And I would say corner and linebacker. You know, I would assume some sort of activity, a little bit of a flurry maybe at those two positions to start day two.
I kind of felt for Omar Cooper Jr. last night, to be quite honest, because at one point there was 3 straight picks where it was, I believe, I don't remember the exact order, but it was the Chiefs, the 49ers, and the Bills. And then they either went elsewhere, and then the Niners swapped out, and then the Jets swooped in for Omar Cooper. I'm like, he could have gone to any of those 3 contenders, and instead the Jets come and knocking and say, hey, you can play for us now.
Did anybody check out the immediate Fernando Mendoza LinkedIn commercial moments after he was selected? Did you catch that at all?
I didn't. My head was buried in my laptop, but I'm sure it was very on brand for Mr. Mendoza.
They cut away from the draft to a commercial where they clearly taped it earlier at his house in Miami. He's looking at his phone. He's in the middle of doing an interview, Mark, and then all of a sudden he looks at his phone and he goes, hey, hang on, I got to finish this post. And then he posts about being selected first overall. Now it's time to get to work. And then just because it worked and I was curious, I opened up my LinkedIn and I went there, and sure enough, Fernando Mendoza immediately posted something on LinkedIn. I thought that was a very creative way to get him involved right out of the gate.
It's got to be the last time he posts on LinkedIn. The next time he's logging in, it'll be like, oh, it's so-and-so's 1-year anniversary. Wish them a congratulations. Like, I never do that.
Endorse him for 2-minute drill. Or
Yeah,
third
Mark,
down
I have
efficiency.
a guy who messages me every year on my birthday through LinkedIn. And
Do you know him?
I mean, I know of him.
Okay.
We connected via LinkedIn, but I don't know if I've ever met him in person. And after about the second year, I just stopped replying. I'm like, it's fine, brother. You can let the birthday pass without this message.
I know. It's so weird.
And it's automated. It's not like he's creating something that's like from his own mind. It is literally what the little AI
You just
generator
push
will
the
tell
button.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to keep the local ties, though, shout out to Caleb Downs, the younger brother of Josh Downs, heading to the Dallas Cowboys at number 11. Of course, the Colts host the Cowboys this upcoming season. So I got a kick out of seeing Caleb Downs in one of his post-draft interviews saying, yeah, my brother's going to have some problems when he faces me. So nice little sibling rivalry going on there. And you can see Josh being very emotional about it. Called his brother the best player in the draft, and pound for pound, he might actually be. So excited for him.
All right, so we are up and running. The first round of the NFL draft is in the books. Mark, help me out. Did Ohio State go farther in the national championship playoffs? They had 4 guys selected in the first 11, and I know it doesn't really correlate. I just thought it was interesting that there are 4 Ohio State players, Kevin, that in the first 11. That's a pretty impressive output for a school.
Yeah, but IU dusted them in the Big Ten title game, and Miami really dusted them in that playoff game. So yeah, sorry about you, Julian saying. Oof, I wasn't too impressed when I saw him there. So yeah, I feel like offensively it was probably maybe their bigger issues for that team, and not a lot of off. I was surprised, I guess, to see Carnell Tate go all the way 4 overall. If you want to speak to the AFC South. That I think was kind of an early surprise. I don't know. Maybe Jeremiah Love at 3 was an early surprise. It seemed like there was some chatter that he was going to go in the top 5 and, as high as 3. So, you look at Arizona, definitely have offensive line questions, definitely have quarterback questions. But, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, Jeremiah Love trio, that is a notable skill group on paper. But again, Tate 4, I get Cam Ward and get him weapons, but I think that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. And then probably the biggest news item of last night was Ty Simpson going 13 to the Rams. In just their thought process. Matthew Stafford, by all accounts, is not one that's got a ton left, and they have been a very bleep them picks franchise, and yet they sit there at 13 and draft a pick for the future, which I thought was super surprising, that they took Ty Simpson where they did, and that they took him, period. If I'm Matthew Stafford, there's part of me is like hand raised, like, hey, wait a minute. How is this helping us kind of push our chips into the middle of the table right here, right now? But that's the dichotomy of the draft. You got some teams that are going to be a little bit more short-term minded with their picks, and other teams going to be a little bit more long-term.
I was listening to a little bit of the post-pick press conference for the Rams last night. It sounded like Les Snead was a little more excited about the pick than maybe Sean McVay was.
I'll just say it's a stupid pick, in my opinion.
McVay didn't seem fired up at all.
Yeah, you have a Super Bowl contender, Matthew Stafford, coming back, and with the number 13 pick, you can add a dude that can help you right now in your Super Bowl quest. I don't see the point in drafting a guy who started 1 year in college. Hence, the guy who started 1 year in college coming here a few years ago didn't work out very well, and he's kind of a smaller quarterback, and he's injured. So, not injured right now, but he's kind of injury prone. So, those 3 things together, not loving that, but...
Well, and if all things goes well, too, he's not going to see the field for the next year or 2 anyway. So what the hell are you doing with the...
I understand, bringing him along. I just don't understand the need to reach for him, Mark. So I agree there for sure.
Now, Packers fans would raise their hand and say it's worked out well for us.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. But I feel like the Packers are just different because every quarterback seemingly works out for them.
Sorry
and
about
also, Jordan Love was not small, injured, and starting 1 year of college football.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see Simpson and waiting behind Stafford. Obviously, the Anthony Richardson situation was vastly different and throwing him right into the mix. Of course, Ty Simpson won't do it out there. But, yeah, I look at it more organizationally and think, not that Sean McVay – I feel like there's been, this rumor of, is Sean McVay going to continue to coach? And is he going to go into broadcasting? And how long does he want to do this? And then – to your point, Jeff, Les Snead, probably their GM, looking at it a little differently. than Sean McVay. So, yeah, I thought that was easily the most interesting storyline of last night.
And all the talk, too, of potentially A.J. Brown being traded somewhere. Where'd the Eagles go with their first-round pick?
Yeah, that was some interesting reporting from Ian Rappaport saying that Pittsburgh, where obviously the draft is, Mekhi Lemon, the USC wideout, thought he was going there, was on the phone with the Steelers, and then the Eagles, ironically enough, come trading up. And that was a little bit of a wide receiver activity, kind of early 20s. I was waiting for Omar Cooper Jr. to hear his name called. Casey Concepcion, I think from A&M, went in that range as well. So, yeah, for a second there, I thought to myself, is Cooper going to fall out around 1? So good news for him is he gets that fifth-year team option, which, I think is, a nice potential payday for him. I know some guys might say, well, you want to get to that second contract sooner, but that is a part of going in round 1 that him and Dylan Thiedemann both will receive.
There was one player that I don't know if he fits the perfect need for them, but I think is going to be a really good player that I liked a lot, and I thought he'd fall in the mid-teens, and he did. I really like the Oregon tight end, Kenyon Sadiq, and the Jets end up getting him. I know we saw him a little bit against Indiana, but I saw him play, 3 or 4 different times this past fall. I think he's going to be a really good tight end in the NFL. Size, hands, little physical when he needs to be. I really liked him, James.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he can have a great NFL career, but as far as the Jets go, I will never believe they're going to be good until I see it.
Well, they also picked Omar Cooper Jr., so they went for weapons. They got a tight end and a wide receiver.
Yeah, Geno Smith, I think the quarterback, again for the Jets, or at least, number 1 on the leaderboard right now. So he will certainly have more pieces to work with than what they had last year.
And the Jets, of course, had 3 picks. They had David Bailey at number 2, an edge rusher. So they got an edge and 2 weapons. But to your point, it's the Jets. Let's see what happens, right?
Got 3 first-rounders next year. I mean, they are definitely stockpiling these picks. So, yeah, Kenyon Sadiq, for those that care, that was the slot where the Colts picked there at 16 overall.
All right, coming up in just a moment, we'll give you the check down and get you over everything that's been taking place over the last 24 hours, what is to come this weekend. Take your thoughts on the text line, as always, 237. Say it again for me, 239-1070. Thank you very much. I just won a Jets draft pick right there. Coming up in a moment, we'll get all that for you here. It's the Fan Morning Show right here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Happy Friday morning, everyone. Welcome into the Fan Morning Show. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate that. I'm Jeff Rickard and Fernando Mendoza. As we all expected, viewing the NFL draft from his home down in Miami, just after 8 o'clock, heard this.
With the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, Indiana.
Not much hype, not much drama. Everyone knew it was going to happen. I thought it was pretty cool to see the images of the little draft party he had going on at his home down in Miami. I thought that was pretty cool that he stayed home and spent that with his family and especially his mom, James.
Yeah, got to respect it. I mean, you only get so much time with your family throughout this process because you're going to be on a plane, if not now, later today, to Vegas and start the whole process of becoming the face of the franchise.
I love the fact that the first thing he said, on brand, is basically one of the most boring interviews I've ever heard in my life, but it was on brand. It was like, hey, you know what? Really blessed, really honored. Time to get to work now. I love that about them. No hype, no sensation, just, hey, all right, this is fantastic. Now I got to back it up.
Yeah, the scene didn't look like Jacob Eason when he got drafted coming out of the back room, and we were a little curious what was potentially going on back there. I thought it was also really cool yesterday. I saw a note where Fernando Mendoza and family have created the Mendoza Family Fund for MS to fight against MS, $500,000, ironically, to the University of Miami, of course, their hometown there. So, they've clearly, Fernando's been really public about that, which is great to see. So, also off the field, he's doing his part as now he is the number 1 overall pick for the Raiders. No Colts Raiders next year, right? Raiders aren't on the schedule?
I don't believe so, but to be honest, I have not looked at the schedule often. KB.
It's AFC North maybe for the Colts next year. So, does not look like the Colts will see Mendoza next year.
I know it's not a road game because I remembered that.
Colts usually play the Raiders seemingly every year, it seems like.
He was not the only Indiana Hoosier to be drafted. Omar Cooper Jr. goes number 30 to the New York Jets, and the Jets loading up on skill position players. Yes, they got an edge in there. They had 3 picks. They had an edge early in round 1, and then they get a tight end in Kenyon Sadiq, and they get Omar Cooper Jr. They're going to pair him up with Garrett Wilson and a guy named A.D. Mitchell. They're putting together a lot of speed and performance out on the outside and at tight end right now, James.
Yeah, I can't knock their picks at all. Mark, you were going to chime in there for a second?
Colts 2027 schedule, opponent list. It says AFC West TBD for Lucas Oil Stadium. So I guess if the Colts and Raiders finish in the same place, we could have Fernando Mendoza next season.
We'll wait and see. When is that schedule reveal later on in May?
Well, 2027 is not going to be until next April. But
2027 you're talking about, yep. All right, also Dylan Thieneman, the former Purdue player that transferred to Oregon, selected number 25, marked by
the Chicago Bears.
You like it?
Yo, love it. Like I said, I still want edge and everything like that, but I also wasn't expecting Thieneman to be there at 25, so I kind of never even really thought of it as a possibility. So when he started sliding, it's like, okay, all right, let's see what happens. I assumed he was going to go to the Lions or the Vikings, and then when he didn't, I said, come on, Bears, pull the trigger, and they did. So I'm very, very happy for him.
All right, 2 running backs from Notre Dame going in the first round. Jeremiah Love at number 3, Kevin to the Arizona Cardinals. Jadarian Price, number 32, to finish up the first round as well. And your thoughts on both running backs going to the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, for Love, boy, I pray Arizona finds an offensive line. That was kind of the first thought that I had there. But again,
Seahawks, by the way.
I think he's a super dynamic talent there. I think with Jadarian Price, for those that watched him in college, he was a very elite kick returner, and the kick returner is now like a real thing again in the NFL. So obviously Kenneth Walker, we saw in free agency, leave Seattle to go to Kansas City. So I think that's some of the thought process there. So yeah, I believe first time in NFL history that the first 2 running backs off the board were from the same school.
All right. Ohio State also had 4 of the first 11 picks. Man, do you think Caleb Love has gone to sleep yet, or is he just cruising on a high? Mark, we should call him up and ask him what he thought about that. 4 in the first 11.
Caleb who?
Sorry. Zuver.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
I thought you were combining Caleb Williams and Jordan Love for a second. I was
I
like,
was
this is
thinking
blasphemy.
Caleb Wilson. I thought we were back on my North Carolina guy.
Caleb Love is a basketball player.
I was trying to say Caleb Zuber's going to love what Ohio State did, and it all came together.
He's also really excited for the Alabama spring game. The Yankees are doing really good. The Cowboys had a good draft pick, so he's very excited.
I don't think he'll ever live that
Duke
down.
basketball.
Shout out to Caleb Zuber. I'll see him Sunday for hoops.
Meanwhile, the Colts have their first pick, if everything goes as is scheduled right now, at number 47 later on tonight. We've been talking about the possibilities, James, of edge, linebacker, safety, wide receiver. Obviously, you got to wait and see how the draft falls and things of that nature. Do you think they end up keeping pick number 47 or trading back maybe?
I think they're going to trade back because they just need more darts at the board, and that's typically what Chris Ballard values. And so we'll see how that all shakes out, but I expect this board to change a lot for the Colts over the course of the night.
Do we see Elijah Surratt selected in the second round tonight?
Yeah, I would think so. Or possibly. I mean, I'll take that back. Possibly, but it could be the third round for a guy like that. That's more where I've seen him projected.
All right. There could be a couple of different Hoosiers selected tonight. Kevin, anybody else you're keeping a close eye on this evening?
Well, certainly D'Angelo Ponds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think from the Colts standpoint, does he get to 47? We didn't see a ton of corners. Granted, not a great cornerback draft class to thought there. And we should note for the Colts, too, no linebackers in round one. So, you know, this gets back to the old debate of, you know, if you're sitting there at 47 overall and all of a sudden there's still a cluster of a particular position of need available, do you then try and move back thinking you'll still get somebody out of that cluster, or is there one that kind of stands above the rest? So I think those would be some of the debates that you see here as the Colts draft in the middle of round two.
All right, 3 NBA playoff games last night, and C.J. McCollum does it again, a game winner last night to beat the Knicks 109-108. The Hawks lead that series 2-1, had the game winner with less than 13 seconds to go, scored 23 points overall. But do we have a new Knicks killer from the Atlanta Hawks now that Trae Young is with Washington?
Yeah, C.J. McCollum, boy, how about it? He's been balling. What's he always do? Caw-caw, caw-caw, which I think is hilarious. I'm like, what kind of, like, chant is that? And, boy, I cannot do it very well. But the point is, if Atlanta takes down the Knicks, seriously, in this round, it is disaster in New York. You fired Tom Thibodeau after getting to the conference finals, and the expectation was that Mike Brown will get you to the finals. So to lose in the first round will be a epic disaster.
All right, the Nuggets are behind the Minnesota Timberwolves 2-1. Minnesota, Kevin, talked in the postgame openly about how they've solved the Nuggets offense and Jokic. They did it again last night, 113-96. Jokic was stymied all night long. Another poor shooting performance for him. And Minnesota, they at least the last 2 games, seem to have figured out how to defend the Denver Nuggets.
I mean, 7 of 26. I mean, that's got to be one of Jokic's worst playoff games ever.
He still posted 27 and 15, but it was just volume.
So Rudy Gobert seemingly causing a ton of inefficiency there. So that series has the Nuggets down, 2-1, the Knicks down 2-1 there. So, again, we're getting, I think, some very, very interesting round one drama here in the NBA playoffs, which I love. We'll see about Victor Wembanyama tonight. Looks like he is going to make the trip out there, Spurs and Trailblazers. So that'll be something to keep an eye on, as that series is also 1-1.
As a nerd of this stuff, and not even joking, we have to really kind of process the steps of the concussion protocol. Kevin, I really want to know, what is the protocol for the NBA? Because if this were an NFL player, there would be like 0 chance of him playing, in my opinion, right? Because they have to make the different steps and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, usually I feel like 8 out of 10 cases in the NFL, they're missing at least a week.
Yeah, so this is a unique process, but I'm sure they'll take it serious with a guy like Wemby in any player.
Questionable for tonight.
All right, Toronto Raptors over the Cleveland Cavaliers 126-104. They lead that series. The Cavs do 2-1. Scotty Barnes, 33 points and 11 assists. Major League Baseball, how about the Cubs again, Mark? They've won 9 in a row. They beat the Phillies, who've lost 9 in a row.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Man, oh man. What are you going to do with them? They figure it out, and they figured it out big time.
Huge series against the Dodgers this weekend. Can we get a Kevin Bowen 3-game sweep? We'll see.
Mark, did I see a little Pato Award and Santino Ferrucci?
You did.
At Wrigley
Yes, you
yesterday?
did.
Never good when they show the first pitch and all they show is the throw. They never show where the ball ends up.
No. No.
Hey,
Those are interesting camera angles. They doctor the video.
as long as Pato can turn the wheel left here coming up
That's
in
right.
a few weeks, he'll be just fine.
All right, so that's what's happening as far as Major League Baseball is concerned. Anything else you guys want to throw out before we head to break here?
Well, I was the loser, I guess, that watched the IU spring game. I did a little multi.
Oh, you did?
Last night there. So their offensive line a little banged up. I thought their D line honestly was very impressive. I know they are super high on the reinforcements and the portal additions they've added in the D line. You can see that the Kansas State kid, I'll butcher his name, Osunami, I think. He definitely had a flash or two. But yeah, I thought Josh Hoover maybe a struggle or two early on. Again, the pressure was rather immense in his face, but I thought made some nice throws as the night moved along. You can see the talent from Nick Marsh. Certainly, you can see that talent there. Tyler Marsh, Tyler Morris, the transfer from Michigan, tore his ACL last year. I thought he had a couple of nice moments there. So, yeah, just one half of football. They took a brief break for the Mendoza pick. Not much. That happened in the middle of the first series, or right after the first series of the game there. Great to see Tyler Cherry out on the field. The Center Grove product suffered a really ugly injury about a year and a half ago at this point. So good to see him back and playing football.
You already placed a futures bet on a repeat championship for IU after what you saw last night?
I do think that D-line did catch my eye. I mean, Kurt Cignetti was very quick to say, hey, we're missing several starters and, whatever. Josh Hoover kind of is at the same level of where Curtis Rourke was in the spring, Fernando Mendoza was in the spring, so they need some more growth, I think. But yeah, I mean, it did look like more like a reload, Mark, than anything else.
Coming up in a moment, more on the first round of the NFL draft and what to expect from the Colts tonight in round 2. We'll take your thoughts and comments as well. 239-1070 is the fan text line. You can call us up as well. Mark will answer the phone and talk to you and put you through. 239-1070. It's all a big Friday ahead. Greg Rakestraw, top of the hour, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, it's Mark, and those summer temps are right around the corner, and it's time to take advantage while they're not yet here in that in-between period of the summer heat that's on the way. Make sure your Heil system, your HVAC system, is ready to handle it. Mine is ready to roll thanks to the fantastic folks at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. My house is feeling great during every season because I took care of them with Love Heating and Air Conditioning. They swapped out my 2-decade-old system for a brand new Heil system a couple years back, and we haven't looked back. We're loving everything about it. The energy efficiency, the dollars rolling off that monthly bill. Fantastic. Don't delay. Give them a call today. 317-353-2141 is the phone number, or you can check them out online at love-hvac.com. Talk to a customer service rep like Sarah, who I talked to the other day, our spring tune-up right around the corner, so can't wait to get that done. They can also go over all the products and services they provide, like the Heil system they installed in my home. You can also read customer reviews and go over financial options if you need to take that next step as well. John and Chris love their fourth-generation owners. They'll make sure you're a satisfied customer, just like the Dykton household is. Plus, Love Heating and Air, family-owned and operated for over 100 years. That's how long they've been serving Indianapolis and Central Indiana. That number again, 317-353-2141, or online, love-hvac.com.
Listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Sun's up. Let's roll. Heading into the weekend and 2 more days of the National Football League 2026 draft. Last night, Indiana's quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, goes number 1 overall, as everyone expected. And we're talking about all of the draft picks and what the Colts have in front of them over the next couple of days as well. And in case you're wondering and you're just waking up and you had other things to do last night, one of the draft picks, the 2 number 1 round picks that the Colts set away to the Jets for Sauce Gardner, ended up being Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon. And there were just in front and behind those picks, Reuben Bain Jr., you talked about him earlier this week, Kevin, the edge rusher from Miami. And then right after, Blake Miller, offensive tackle from Clemson. But Sauce Gardner, not a bad get if you're going to trade a number 1 pick. The question is, was 2 number 1 picks worth it in the long run, and where does that leave the Colts moving forward, James?
Yeah, I would argue that the question is, can you deliver on day 2 of the draft right now? We'll worry about next year when it gets here. But, yeah, to your point, Jeff, your first-round pick this year is a 24-year-old former first team all pro cornerback. That's fine. But can you find other dudes, starting caliber players here tonight, quite frankly, because you have glaring holes still in your roster. And as Kevin has pointed out throughout the pre-draft process, throughout the offseason, you had 5 starters leave via free agency or via trade, which, again, I don't think that all of them should have been brought back anyway. But the point is, have you found adequate replacements for them? And I would say right now, the only clear answer you have as far as replacements go is Jalen Travis taking over for Braden Smith at right tackle, which that succession plan we could have told you back in October. But now, can you find that edge rusher opposite of Latu? Can you find that linebacker that can replace the snaps that Zaire Franklin was playing last year? Can you, in theory, go out there and try to find perhaps a safety or something like that? Those are the things that are top of mind for the Colts tonight.
What are you looking for this evening? How do you think this all plays out?
Yeah, I obviously the trade back will be something that I'll be very curious about. Their attempt to try and add another late 3rd round pick. Weighing edge rusher versus linebacker, like the scarcity. Not that there was a ton of edge rushers that went last night, but there were a few more in the 20s. No linebackers went. So is that one of those where you kind of look at the board and say, hey, at pick 47, again, to use like the candy bar gas station analogy, hey, there's only 2 of those candy bars left, whereas there's 10 of the other candy bars. So if we drive a couple hundred miles, we could be all right if we wait a little bit on that aspect to it with linebacker. And then is wideout at all a thought? That's one that, again, I'm a bit torn on. I would lean towards the 2 front 7 positions of linebacker and edge rusher more than I would lean towards wideout. But I know there are a lot of Colts fans that look at that. And again, receiver, we saw a little bit of run there in the 20s. If you're just waking up here on this Friday morning, Omar Cooper Jr. did sneak into round 1. The New York Jets traded back into round 1. We saw a lot of trades late in round 1 last night. So Omar Cooper Jr. to the Jets and Dylan Thieneman, the Westfield product, to Mark's Bears.
Anything happened in that first round that it would affect the Colts in any way, shape, or form? I mean, it's from 47 to, the first round is quite a distance, so I don't know that necessarily impacts anything. But did anything take place in the latter part of that first round where you say, oh, maybe that affects a little bit of what's going to happen with the Colts? I can't see it. Do you?
Nah, I didn't really view it through that lens last night, Jeff, but I just think a lot of it has to do with, I think, Kevin, you pointed out, no linebackers taken. Is that sort of a priority that you want to address? And I think there's some good ones out there. Jacob Rodriguez. Did he play with Texas Tech? I'm trying to think of the school he played at. And then Anthony Hill Jr., the Texas player. I like what he can offer. So do you lean towards that, or do you kind of trust what has helped you in the past where you've probably hit on other needs first and then come back to get the linebacker that you can kind of plug and play? Because to give Chris Ballard and company credit, they have drafted that position pretty well throughout the years and often on day 3.
And I would think at some point tonight, I don't know if the trigger gets pulled, but when do you start? Is it more a day 3 thing? When do you start having conversations about trading a Kenny Moore or trading an Anthony Richardson Sr.? When does that happen? Day 3.
Yeah, one thing I do want to say of like what impacted the Colts, I did note that the Texans took an offensive lineman late. They actually traded up a couple spots to take an interior player. I think it was Keelan Rutledge out of Georgia Tech. So, when you look at Houston's off season, they have had a pretty good offensive line focus. They drafted some offensive linemen early last year. I would argue that's probably their biggest issue. And I think it centers around C.J. Stroud's struggles late in the season. So, when you look at the Texans, I think they're probably overall talent on each side of the ball is the best in the division, but their offensive line needs help. And so that was a pick that, stood out to me. Tennessee did also, I think, trade back into round 1, I believe. They drafted a defensive lineman there late to go with Carnell Tate, 4th overall. As far as those trades, Jeff, I would say nothing until Saturday. I just think that's typically how the NFL operates when the draft comes. I don't believe we saw any trade with a player last night. Maybe I missed something there. I think it was all pick related when those teams moved in and out of round 1 there, especially late in the draft. So, I would think you get through tonight, noon on Saturday. So you got plenty of time Saturday morning to, go through your boards, see what's out there, see what the veteran free agency looks like. So I think if there's any activity with Mr. Richardson or Mr. Moore, it would come on Saturday.
Yeah, we didn't see any draft night trades, but more than half of these picks in the first round were acquired by the team that made the pick through trades. I thought that was pretty interesting. So a lot these trades they get thrown about quite frequently on days other than draft day, and that's kind of how it. I think that's one of the reasons we didn't see draft day trades. There'd been so many made already leading into this day.
Yeah, and to kind of tie it back to the point you kind of brought up there, Jeff, I don't expect Kenny Moore II or Anthony Richardson to be moved until day 3, if they get moved at all. Quite frankly, neither player would warrant a day 2 selection, and if a GM is willing to give that up, you don't ask any questions. You get that filed right away in whatever system you have to make it official, because I would venture to say that they've had a couple of drinks before they called you with that proposition.
If my math is correct, and counting is not always my strong suit, 17 of the first round picks were acquired by the teams that made him through a trade, Kevin. 17 out of the 32. So there is a lot of movement, just not necessarily on draft day.
Yeah, it seemed to be a lot of flurry there late in round 1, more than I can remember there. So D'Angelo Pons is also still on the board. Corner didn't appear to be a very deep class this season. Where does he fall as day 2 starts to peel off? I did see Carson Beck from Miami could go here early on day 2. So what are we 7 o'clock tonight, James? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
7 minutes, 8 minutes, 5 minutes? What are we, 7?
I didn't check how much time is
It
in
did
between.
feel quicker last night, didn't it?
Yeah, I want to say it ended about a little after 11, if memory serves. I want to say the final pick was made there. So, yeah.
And I just want to be clear, too, there were a few teams that did trade up last night. Kansas City traded up to get their guy.
Dallas traded up, right,
yeah.
didn't they, to get Caleb Downs?
Yeah. But a lot of these, my point was the majority of them were made
somebody's
on
trading
non-draft day. Yeah. So that's what's going on as far as round 1 is concerned. Again, Omar Cooper Jr. going number 30 to the Jets. If you're just joining us, they are putting together, they got a bunch of first-round picks next year, too. They had 3 last night. They took an edge rusher, they took a wide receiver, and a tight end. They're not only in full rebuild mode, and it's the Jets, so who knows, Kevin, but they're in a pretty good spot if you're going to start rebuilding. They're doing it the way I think most teams would love to be able to do it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting if you look at the Jets and like the Cardinals, for example, right now. On paper, there is probably a good amount of intrigue in what they do have at the skill positions. For Arizona, I thought their backfield was fine, but obviously Jeremiah Love and what they have with Trey McBride, and we'll see about Marvin Harrison Jr. maybe reaching that full potential. And then with the Jets, Breece Hall thought to be a very good running back. Their wideout group with Garrett Wilson, and we'll see about A.D. Mitchell and Omar Cooper Jr. and Kenyon Sadiq as well. It's kind of the reverse of do you go get the quarterback first and then add the skill talent, or do you do the flip? And again, we probably say this a lot, but it does sound like there's a little bit more intrigue with the 2027 quarterback class than the 2026 quarterback class. And so if you're the Jets and you've got 3 first-round picks for next year, maybe that's where you go out there and take a QB.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what Chris Ballard and the Colts do tonight. You'll be able to hear it all right here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Again, 7 o'clock start for ESPN Radio's national coverage, top and bottom of the hour coverage from the Colts broadcast team with Matt Taylor, Casey Valier, Charles Arbuckle, and Rick Venturi. Look forward to seeing what, especially, it's always fun to listen to Rick Venturi, Kevin, and what his thoughts are, not only on individual players, but what I love about Rick, if he likes or doesn't like that pick at 47, you're going to know immediately what Rick Venturi thinks about that pick.
He will make it known. What do you guys think of Carnell Tate at 4 to the Titans?
I think he's a really talented guy. I think he'll be a good NFL player. Number 4, what do you think about that, James? Is that a little bit of a reach maybe, or is that just the guy that they wanted?
I viewed it as, hey, we're going to try to get Cam Ward as many options and as much help as we can. So from that perspective, I can understand why they took him so high. I probably wouldn't have, but in the grand scheme of things, you're trying to make sure your number 1 pick from a couple of years ago feels comfortable in this offense and feels like he can actually do something, because we saw them last year, Kevin. They were awful around him. There was
I don't
no
know if I
talent in
can-
Tennessee.
I don't know if I can name a Tennessee wideout
Yeah, exactly.
Calvin Ridley. That's
Yeah.
about it.
who was horrific, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was bad, but shout out to him. He got the bag first. So if you're ever going to fall off, you get the money first.
You could have made a lot of money,
That's how it
speaking
works.
of that, on probably betting Carnell Tate to be the first Ohio State player taken last night.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
made some money on that, yeah.
You know, with David Bailey going 2 there, Jeremiah Love going 3.
Yeah, and when you're talking about Ohio State, not only Carnell Tate at number 4, Arvell Reese goes at number 5, and then Sonny Styles goes at 7, and Caleb Downs at 11. 4 first-round picks inside the top 11 for Ryan Day's team right there. 2, of course, for Indiana. We talked about the number 1 overall pick, Fernando Mendoza, and, of course, at number 30 to the Jets, we just got done discussing Omar Cooper Jr., and I would imagine D'Angelo Pons or Elijah Surratt. Who do you like other than those 2 guys that could possibly get into the back half of the second round for the Hoosiers? Anybody?
Well, I think today you're just looking at those 2.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised. Maybe I'm forgetting somebody, but I'd be surprised if
That's what it feels like.
Aiden Fisher or somebody else got into day 2. I'm probably more, if anything, on Surratt round 3. I think round 2 might be a hair early for him. So just to remind everybody, it's round 2 and round 3 tonight. I want to say 7 and 5 minutes, if I remember correctly, for the picks here. I do think we start to get the time a little bit shorter here. And the Colts 47 overall and 78 overall currently as we get ready for El Noche.
So you guys were discussing like the Colts potentially trading back. How comfortable? How many spots back how should I phrase this? How far back would you feel comfortable with them moving back with the 47th?
I think it's an outstanding question. Yeah. I think it's a great debate because in order to get another third, you probably have to go back to close to 60, if not further.
Right.
So are you really wanting to get through the first 60 picks of a draft before you select a player?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a terrific debate. I would not want to go too far back to answer it, but if you're going to really get another dart here on day 2, you're going to have to go. I mean, I've used the Rams as the analogy. The Rams, I think, are at 61 or 62, and then they have another one like at 90-something. So, yeah, it's the quantity of the darts or the quality of the darts. How do you view it? I would not want to go back too far.
And the painful part about not having your first pick until 47, James, and I've seen this before when teams' first pick is in the middle or the latter part of the second round for whatever reason, trading away the pick. At 47, there's a lot of players that get bunched together, right? So a lot of guys that are really high on your draft board, you're sitting there at 47 and boom, the guy you like goes at 38. Then the next guy you like goes at 41. Then there's another guy at 42. Then there's a fourth guy at 45. You know what I mean? It could be really painful to just watch the guys you have rated really highly in that second round just kind of go one by one right in front of you.
Yeah, I think to your point, the board will probably dictate a lot of what they do when it comes to standing pat or trading back. Looking at the last time they were in this kind of position, Kevin, was in 2022, traded back from 42 to 53 to recoup another, I think, third-round pick that day, and you ultimately ended up going 2 for 3 on those selections. So the 3 day 2 selections they had in 2022 were Alec Pierce, Jelani Woods, and Bernard Ryman. Obviously, Jelani Woods no longer with the Colts. I think he's with the Jets over there with A.D. Mitchell. But you found 2 cornerstones for your franchise in Alec Pierce and Bernard Ryman. But the point that needs to be hammered home, especially so this year, is that you can't really wait for those guys to develop. You need to find dudes that can help you right now, tomorrow, when it comes to this team and the pressure that's on them to deliver in Chris Ballard's final year of his contract and also amid a 5-year playoff drought.
Yeah, I think to further that, James, I've said this about Daniel Jones a lot in his return. When is Daniel Jones back, and when is he back looking like himself? Like, there's 2 questions for me with Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
In this year's draft class, I guess I'm pretty much repeating what you just said. Are you good, and are you good now?
Yeah.
And the now would be in all caps. Like,
Yeah,
that's the difficult. Like, when you bring up that 2022 draft class, it's a great draft class. But again, after year 1, we did not say that about Alec Pierce. We did not say that about Bernie Ryman, and we didn't say that about Nick Cross, which, again, those are realistic, normal expectations for a draft class. The issue is here in Indy, when you are on a 5-year playoff drought, when you do have as pathetic of a resume as Chris Ballard has, you can't afford to practice and preach and appreciate patience.
So now I have this question because this was me as a kid, and shout out to my parents because I would just get on their nerves. So you talked about having to wait a little bit when it came to the development of Alec Pierce and the rest of those players, and
we need to be potty trained by Monday, Mark.
I was gonna say, when your kid asks for something,
You know it.
and you say
naked all weekend, right?
Yeah. So if your kid asks for something, and Jeff, your kids were young once, but when you say, "Hey, in a minute," do they ever get to the point where they're just like literally counting down the minute? Because I got to that point.
Yeah, and then it drives me nuts. And
I
I'm like,
know.
all right, whatever.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, this cannot be in a minute. Like, this needs to literally be in a minute. If you draft these guys on day 2, they need to be helping your football team immediately.
We took our nephew. Did you guys ever go to Shorty's, Mark? Did you ever go to Shorty's?
No.
What is Shorty's? I've not heard of Shorty.
It used to be a
Sounds like a
great
bar.
little par
Or a dive
3
bar.
golf course on the north side. I think they blew it up and turned it into apartments. But, Mark, picture what you did in Plainfield a couple weeks ago. Just a nice place to go and whatever. Try to learn how to play golf. And my nephew Teddy asks in the car ride, "Hey, how long is it going to be till we get there?" And I think we were like, "Oh, it's going to be 10 minutes." He's like, "How many seconds is that?" We're like, 600 seconds. What does he do? Counts to 600
Well, good for him to be able to count to 600.
in the car. Is there anything more than an 8-year-old wants to do than count to 600?
Man.
You got it. I mean, windows down after about, 45 seconds after that point, trying to drown him out. By the way, they keep on showing this fry and chicken tender basket on the TV. I am so hungry for fries and chicken tenders all of a sudden. How good does that look?
Yeah, you really can't go wrong with that.
No.
That would
Just
be a
a
Mike
nice
Chappell
stadium
special.
basket right there.
Yeah,
Oh.
that would be a Mike Chappell special.
What did you
which
guys have last night, James?
We had chicken wings,
Whoa.
barbecue and buffalo, fries, and salad, which was noticeably left untouched by Mike Chappell. Shout out to the dean. We were
He
trying to
passed.
convince him. We were trying to say, hey, kale, spinach, and he was like, if you don't get out of my face.
Yeah, Mike Chappell in the color green. Oof.
He probably hates your shirt right now,
He
honestly.
probably does.
Coming up in just a moment, Greg Rakestraw stops by. He's part of the Colts broadcast crew. We'll get his thoughts on how round 1 went in the NFL and what the Colts might be up to tonight in round number 2 and 3. And so we'll figure it all out as we continue here on the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The gold standard for hair restoration, it is We Grow Hair Indie. I think some people did appreciate maybe the live read yesterday referencing a former NFL coach and maybe some follicles that could be used on the north part of the dome there. It's Friday. You're probably not really going to work too hard. How about go to WeGrowHairIndie.com or, hell, just show up to the Pyramids. Building number 2, Darren Andrews and his staff, a free evaluation, a private evaluation, a virtual evaluation. all of that is available to you. In the last, I'd say, couple months, I've chatted with a couple of colleagues here in the Indy area that have had procedures done at We Grow Hair Indy, and their experience seems to have gone very well. I would echo that. Mine now, boy, what are we, 2.5, 3.5 years old? My experience went very well. You can check that out on their website, wegrowhairindy.com. And again, you'll see before and after pictures and videos, what the day of procedure, pre-procedure, post-procedure, what all of that looks like. So contact them today, Northwest Side, building number 2 at the Pyramids. And online, it is wegrowhairindy.com.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Just do one thing for me. Get Mendoza.
With the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, Indiana.
The first Indiana player drafted number 1 in the common draft era.
The last 5 months has been such a blessing by God, and I can't thank him enough. I'm just looking forward to get to work, prove at the next level. College was fantastic. I'm so blessed to have that career, but now I step into a great game of the NFL. Look forward to proving and earning it every single day.
The Arizona Cardinals select Jeremiah Love, running back, Notre Dame. The Chicago Bears select Dylan Thieneman, defensive back, Oregon. The New York Jets select Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver, Indiana.
The Seattle Seahawks select Jadarian Price, Notre Dame.
Until Monday morning strikes again.
Nice little quick recap of round number 1, the NFL Draft last night, taking place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You guys I'm amazed. They show that overhead shot. I'm still amazed that thousands and thousands of people will show up to watch an NFL draft where, for most of the folks in Pittsburgh, they're going to get one of their picks to really cheer for. It's amazing to me that people go and sit out there for 3 or 4 hours.
The NFL's king.
I always wondered who's doing the head count. They said 300,000. I'm like, who's counting that?
Sound like
How
you
do
need
you
a
know?
conversation with Jay Query.
Yeah, maybe.
That is definitely his yearly topic.
All right, let's go to the Payless Liquors hotline right now. Greg Rakestraw always has tremendous thoughts on all things Indiana sports and other things related. Joins us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Good morning, Greg Rakestraw. Does it amaze you how many people will show up, sit outside for hours at a time on something like the NFL draft?
Yes, it does, because I would not be amongst those people. And I did follow the draft primarily through Jake Query's Twitter last night. So it sounds like that the fourth Woodstock happened last night. That's what I deduced from a late night tweet.
Set the over at 12:01 and 30 seconds for when maybe that will be brought up here. Coming up on Friday. Rake, I know we've talked a lot about the local guys and Dylan Thieneman and Omar Cooper Jr. Someone on the text line reached out to us earlier and said, and I don't know if I can't imagine they would have said this on the national broadcast, Dylan Thieneman's the first Hamilton County product to go in round one. Has there really never been a Carmel player?
No, there's not. I mean, they've had guys that have made the NFL, and I'm just kind of doing the mental Rolodex in my head. I don't think there's anything I would claim of that would be inaccurate, so that would be correct.
What I guess I'll leave it to either of them. A high school memory for you from Omar Cooper Jr. and or Dylan Thieneman.
Well, Omar was the guy that I covered a lot more than Dylan, because Omar would have covered basically the time that we started doing a lot of the MIC games on ISC, which would have been kind of 2019, 2020-ish, a little bit of 2018, 2019. So I was telling somebody yesterday, I probably did between basketball and football maybe 30 of Omar's games. And again, Omar was basically starting power forward on a team that made the state championship game in 2021. And you check his height, and you go, wait, power forward? Yeah, he was that athletic and that physical and that explosive of a leaper that he could do that. And of course, Donovan McCulley was, his high school quarterback and his high school basketball teammate. They'll hear his name at some point in time later in the draft. So Omar's the player that I know well. His dad's still on the staff at Lawrence North, and so happy for him and so happy for his family that, he's a first-round pick. And people will forget, because of the more recent success of Lawrence North, they were good teams he played on at LN. But, in his time, we were talking about, hey, they hadn't won a sectional in 30 years in football. And now this kid's a first-round pick in the NFL draft. That's really cool.
That is wild, right? When you put it in that perspective. I'm very curious because, I'm a hoops lover. Can you expand a little bit on the basketball skills that he might have had? Because I feel like there's a few players in the NFL from the Indianapolis area that were also pretty good basketball players had they gone that route too.
Correct. And like, for example, Damon Watts, and this is going back to the 90s, but played at IU, cornerback, spent some time with the Indianapolis Colts. He was on the great late 80s, early 90s Lawrence North basketball teams. They won the state championship in 89. And again, the players all blend together after a few years. But those LN teams that he was a part of, would have had Tony Perkins that played at Iowa. He was a 2020 grad. A younger C.J. Gunn would have been a part of those teams. DJ Hughes would have been a part of those teams that he played with. Caden Beatty would have been part of that group that he played basketball with at Lawrence North. And to give you an idea of how good that the 2020 team was, they beat LC 3 times that had Dre Davis, Tay Davis, and Nigel Pack on those teams. That Lawrence Central team lost 3 times that season. Every time they lost was to Lawrence North. Regular season, Marion County tournament, and the sectional opening round game at Lawrence Central. That was sadly the week before COVID hit, and there were folks that were affected that were at that game, and that would have been in Omar's junior season of 2020. But again, in 2021, they're playing in the state championship game. Carmel beat them in overtime in the state championship game. But again, Omar, I'm not sure if he's a Division I basketball player, but probably D2 or NAI basketball player if he had gone that route versus football.
Rake, was that the year that everything was kind of weird because of COVID? Like they had the Final Four, I believe, like the same night as the state championships, if I'm not mistaken?
That is correct. That is the night where there were like 3,000 of us in the building and everybody was as spread out as you could possibly be.
Okay, yeah, that was not the Jalen Suggs shot because I remember he made that shot like during the press conference for the Class 4A state championships. I'm going on a rabbit hole, but nevertheless, Ray, thanks for the memories because I was putting it all together. And I'm like, I remember seeing this game and watching, apparently, Omar Cooper Jr. in person. Wow.
Correct. Absolutely.
We obviously take a lot of pride in basketball, producing all kinds of players that make it to major college programs and even the NBA. How are we doing in high school football these days? It seems like more and more there are guys that are showing up occasionally in the NFL.
Correct, and that is part of the development of football in this state. And I'm forgetting what year it was, and I'm sure this happens on an every year basis. But I remember, a national publication at one point in time saying that the MIC was the third or fourth best league in the country from a high school football standpoint. And obviously that debate is going to kind of pick back up by the time we get to the fall because you've got Center Grove and Carmel rejoining the league. Kind of the raging debate the last couple of years has been the MIC versus the HCC. And because of what Brownsburg has done the last couple of years, and obviously Westfield playing them in the championship game, maybe that had tilted toward the HCC a little bit. With Carmel and Center Grove coming back and how good I think LN and Warren are going to be this year, that side of the debate picks up. But in the bigger picture, yes, football is seemingly a bigger deal every year, and we are now 25 to 30 years in this state of high school football, what I call the Colts effect, the Peyton Manning effect, where a young kid going through high school is just as enamored with the bright lights, the stage, the opportunity of playing high school football in our state as he is playing high school basketball in our state.
Damn, Rake, you're making me feel old when you say 25 to 30 years, but you are exactly accurate on that. And Greg Rakestraw with us here every Friday, 8 o'clock on the Fan Morning Show. Rake, the announcement, and maybe it wasn't an announcement, but the story earlier this week of the IHSAA will vote here in a few weeks on the implementation of a shot clock. Is that correct for high school basketball?
Correct. I think that's May 4th that comes down.
Okay.
And again, that has been asked by the Indiana Basketball Coaches Association. We will see what administrators feel on it, but yes, there will be a vote. And if that happens, I think that would be a 2-year implementation away, and it would be varsity only and 35-second shot clock.
Okay. We've got 400 some schools in the IHSAA membership?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
If you polled the 400 head coaches, what do you think the poll results would be, yay or nay on a shot clock? Head coaches.
I think it would be yay, but again, I think the administrators are a completely different ask.
Because of the finances?
Every time, correct, off air and on air that I have been asked this question, my response has been similar. I think the amount of possessions that are affected by a shot clock in high school basketball on a per game basis are minimal. End of quarter possessions. In terms of the financial element of it, you are asking schools to, and again, a lot of the larger schools already have them there because you want to have a clock that is above the basket. And so, you've already got that technology, you just haven't used it. But a lot of schools, from the smaller schools, maybe Class 1A, 2A, into 3A, a lot of those don't have them. Now you're asking them to spend thousands of dollars. Now you've got to also have another shot clock operator. Those things get messed up in college games at times, let alone in high school games. You've got to add another person to the, payroll, albeit whatever, 25, 50, whatever you're paying your bench workers per game. You've got to have another person, another seat. A lot of those score tables are not set up, again, at the smaller level, are set up for 3 people. You got to add another person, to kind of be a part of that. So the coaches, again, my guess would be slightly in favor of it. The administrators, my guess is going to be slightly opposed to it. When it comes to the actual impact on the game, I think it's only a handful of possessions. And the one thing that I do think, I think this is a good thing for the impact of the shot clock, would be teams may be a little less prone to foul in the final 2 minutes, knowing they get a guaranteed possession back. There would speed up some end-of-game scenarios. But rarely, fellas, in a high school game do I feel man, that really drug on. As someone that, believes me, sees hundreds of high school game files, on a television channel or, posting them to a website, et cetera, I can tell you the average length of our broadcast for high school basketball games is anywhere from an hour 15 to an hour 30 most nights. So rarely do I leave a game and go, man, that really drug on. I wish they would speed up the pace of play. So could it happen? Yes. But I still don't think it's a guarantee that it's going to happen even 2 years from now.
Rake, I'll be watching some high school basketball, as I typically do throughout the year, from the Illinois side of things, and they actually will implement a shot clock this upcoming season. So I'm very curious to see how it is in practice for all the reasons you just laid out, because I think a lot of the fans want it and some of the players and coaches do. But I also realize in the state of what is high school sports now, you're opening another person up to be criticized and yelled at and things like that too. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying it's always bad actors, nothing like that. Typically, it's a pretty good environment in high school games, but that is not lost on me, the notion that someone's just going to subject themselves to the inevitable criticism when they mess up the shot clock, because it's going to happen. They're not professionals.
Correct.
So that's another factor I'm thinking about. But I'll be definitely having conversation with you and others as I just look and see, kind of as like a testing ground, to see, okay, across the state lines, what does that look and feel like? Because I think it's going to be kind of jarring for a lot of people, for sure.
Correct. Absolutely. And again, there's nobody's running the Normandale offense anymore. You got to have 4 passes before you shoot the ball. You will occasionally have game scores in the 20s or 30s, but that's rare. I mean, and let's acknowledge even, what is the most obvious example over the last few years. The joke has always been it's the largest school in the state that generates the most conversation about a shot clock in Carmel. There have been years when you have played Carmel, it's a race to 40. It's a race to 50. That's not how they played this year. They have adapted. And to be honest with you, I think, again, the law of unintended consequences, because you can have an open transfer now before your junior season, if a player doesn't want to play a particular style, that player can go someplace else and play basketball. And what does that lead to? Probably everybody playing a little faster, to be honest with you. So, again, I think this is a molehill that some people are trying to make a mountain range out of. I really do.
Greg, always good to talk to you. Have a great weekend. I know you'll probably be working, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games in the next 3 days? How's that work?
Originally on the schedule, I think I was on the docket for as many as 7 or 8 in the next 3 days. Somehow that has morphed down to 3. And you can probably hear it in my voice. I've done 35 innings of baseball or softball the last couple of days. I can use a little bit of a breather. So just 3 games, Saturday night and a couple on Sunday.
Great to see you, or great to hear you. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Always enjoy having you on the show, buddy. We'll talk to you.
See you guys.
There he is, the great Greg Rakestraw. I wasn't kidding when I said 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. He'll do quite often 2 games a day.
Oh yeah, he's a machine, absolute machine. The legend, Greg Rakestraw.
It's Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5. The Fan, Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, Mark Dykton behind the glass over there. Looks like you won your wrestling match with the computers this morning, Mark.
Undefeated.
Eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually.
A couple punches to the screen fixed it right up.
Are we speaking too soon on that?
Probably.
John B. texts in his 10th year as Colts GM, Chris Ballard finally made a team better through the draft, even though that team made better as the New York Jets. Is that too harsh? Silence from Kevin Bowen.
Yeah, it seems a tad harsh.
The one-liners, they're coming in hot and heavy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have a great reaction to it. They've had good draft selections. They've had good draft picks. It's usually been the quarterback that has kind of held this team back. But this year especially, again, I just continue to say you have to deliver later tonight. You got to find dudes that can help you immediately get back to not only playing good football like you were through the first half of last year, but to get ultimately to the playoffs. And Sauce Gardner mentioned that. At bare minimum, we have to be a playoff team. And I think that is a conversation that we can't ignore or give them sort of some grace period for. There is no grace period this upcoming season, regardless of Daniel Jones and his injury history and the Achilles. And, yeah, you don't have a first-round pick this year. We don't care. I don't care. You got to win.
Yeah, one thing I would disagree with, I saw this a lot last night. Oh, yeah, let's just watch Sauce Gardner highlights when the 16th overall pick pops up. That's just 1/3 of the price you paid for Sauce Gardner. That's like checking out to buy secondary tickets, and you're like, oh, yeah, that seems like a reasonable price. Oh, wait, I have to pay a processing fee? Oh, wait, I have to pay
You ain't lying,
taxes?
brother. You are not lying.
So what are you going to say next year when the Jets are picking the Colts pick? You should show Sauce Gardner highlights again? Like,
you know what?
It's 3 levels of payment you had to have. You have to pay for a first-round pick in 2026, a first-round pick in 2027, and A.D. Mitchell here.
That was the dealer and handling price.
Yeah, seriously.
So, you brought that up, Kevin. So when I made the joke with Sauce about being like the first-round pick again, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'll be the first-round pick twice if I have to. I was thinking the twice was initially, oh, you were a first-round pick with the Jets, first-round pick here, but really you're a 3-time first-round pick because of the 2 they give up to get you. So, yeah, quite the investment. And, again, he's only 24 years old. And I put this in my story that came out late last night for my day one recap because we have to write those, apparently, even when you don't have a first-round pick on day one. For Sauce, so he has 2 first-round or all-team first pro selections. The last Colts cornerback to have at least 2 first-team All-Pro cornerback selections was Bobby Boyd. Shout out to my ancestral line. No relation. In the 1960s. So I understand why they made the investment to get him, especially considering his age and how his contract is structured and all that. But there is so much more that has to happen for this trade to pay off besides just him playing well. Like, I don't really worry about Sauce Gardner being a good to great football player for this team. And don't get me wrong, he has to be great. But it's the rest of your decisions around that will determine, in my opinion, whether this was a good trade or not.
Well, I think it's just a reminder of the magnitude of the trade.
Oh, yes.
There are 3 prices you paid for Sauce Gardner. How many did you pay for DeForest Buckner?
It was 1, right?
13th overall. How many did you pay for Trent Richardson?
Boy, it was only 1.
1 first round
Thankfully.
pick. Carson Wentz was what, a first and a third?
Yes.
If I remember correctly. So, we're talking first, and a player. Define A.D. Mitchell however you want to define him. It's, easily one of the biggest trades in franchise history. And with that, the return on investment has got to be, through the roof.
Let's check it down, Mark.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We will start by recapping round 1 in the NFL draft last night. Coming away from Pittsburgh, Fernando Mendoza is indeed the number 1 pick overall. He goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. Omar Cooper Jr., the second man from Indiana University, taken in the first round, number 30 to the New York Jets. And Dylan Thieneman, formerly of Purdue, late of Oregon, goes number 25, Mark, to the Chicago Bears. Are the Bears positioning themselves as the team in the NFC North?
Is there any other option? It's not the Packers, that's for
Detroit?
sure. No. Loading up the secondary. Let's get an edge rusher tonight. Let's see what happens.
Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, 2 running backs from Notre Dame. Kevin Bowen selected in the first round. Jeremiah Love goes number 3 overall to the Arizona Cardinals, and Price goes number 32 to the Seattle Seahawks, who found a way to quickly replace Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, he was a great kick returner at Notre Dame, really single-handedly changed some games for Notre Dame, particularly against USC. And the kick return, I think, is a real thing in the NFL. So that could have been a reason why maybe he got pushed into round 1. And, one thing that I think will be interesting to watch with running backs moving forward is, Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, they split a lot of carries. So the wear and tear might not be as immense as maybe some other bell cow backs from around the college football world. Is that a little bit more enticing to NFL teams versus the guy that had 300 carries for 3 straight seasons out of school?
Ohio State led all schools with the most amount of players selected in the first round. In fact, not only do they have 4, James Boyd, 4 in the first 11 for the Buckeyes last night. That's quite the production for Ohio State.
Yeah, they're a powerhouse. They're a machine, and it'll be the same for the next decade with that crew. They usually put out a lot of NFL talent, and hard to dispute because their former players usually turn into pretty good pros.
Other big pick of note, the Los Angeles Rams, Kevin, select Ty Simpson at number 13 as they try to figure out a way to eventually replace Matthew Stafford down there.
Yeah, I thought easily the biggest surprise of the night. Obviously, organizationally, they have been bleep them picks over the years, and they decide to take a major long-term investment. And obviously, a lot of people have questions about Ty Simpson, going in the upper half of round 1 there. So would love to hear some true serum from Matthew Stafford on a trade like that. Now, this will be very different than Anthony Richardson Sr. A lot of people on the broadcast last night mentioned, lack of starting experience. Well, he's going to go sit behind Matthew Stafford for at least a year. Obviously, Anthony Richardson did not get that at all here in Indy.
Gentlemen, the Indianapolis Colts, as we know, did not have a first-round pick. They traded that as part of a big package to the New York Jets during the season last year for cornerback Sauce Gardner. So they will get their first pick as things stand now tonight at number 47. If I had to put you on the hot seat right now, James Boyd, do they keep that pick or do they trade back?
Trade back. That's the Chris Ballard special. And it'll depend again on how the board falls, but for Chris Ballard's purposes, he'll trade back. For my purposes, trade up so I can get up out of there.
And it looks like maybe 2 guys perhaps from Indiana could be selected in the second round tonight. We talk about
day two. I don't think Elijah Surratt's going in the second round.
Well, could go. I've seen him go as high as the latter half of the second round, depending on a needy team. But I think we'll hear those 2 names tonight. Anybody else in the third round for IU?
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm with James. I would assume Surratt, if he gets into round 3, that's where he would go, not into round 2. D'Angelo Ponds, I think, will be league-wide. I think that will be an interesting name to watch tonight. We didn't see a ton of corners go in round 1. Obviously, you have the height debate with him there. So, is he going to be on the board? I think I threw a scenario at you guys to close out the show yesterday with D'Angelo Ponds there at 47. Could that come to fruition tonight? And would that tip the Colts' hand at all?
All right, our broadcast begins at 7 p.m. tonight with ESPN Radio Network coverage. Top and bottom of the hour, though, we'll hear the Colts broadcast team anchored by Matt Taylor. And, of course, Rick Venturi will spare nobody's feelings if he does not like what the Colts do tonight. That's always fun for me to listen to, James.
The Colts greatness!
Yep, he'll tell you one way or the other. That's what I love about Coach.
Possession into the end zone for a
That is the funniest dude to watch training camp with every year. He's
the best.
As honest as they come. Shout out to
Kenny Yeboah.
Shout out to Coach.
We may have to try and get him on Monday or Tuesday. Have him talk about things, Mark Dykton. That'll be great.
We used to call it the Vitalis squat, the 60-second workout.
You've been waiting for a chance to play that one all year.
I love Rick Venturi.
Everybody does.
Smirk on Mark's face tells you everything you need to know.
NBA playoffs last night. The Atlanta Hawks once again defeating the Knicks, this time in Atlanta, and they've taken a 2-1 advantage there. C.J. McCollum, game winner with 12.7 seconds to go. He had 23 points, and following in the footsteps of Trae Young, who now plays for the Wizards, Atlanta seems to have a Knick killer again, James Boyd.
Yeah, again, I said it earlier in the first hour of the show. If the Knicks lose in round 1, you have to have conversations about blowing the entire thing up. Now, I get it. It's just 2-1. They can come back and win the series, but you never want to play with your food, never want to play with fire. And C.J. McCollum is currently cooking Jalen Brunson. I get that Jalen Brunson is a great player, but they put him in every single action on defense and just fry him like bacon. No limp bacon, though.
None. Not on the Kevin Bowen burger from Cluster Truck.
Good plug. Taking advantage of the opportunity, reading and reacting. Nice job.
James set me up for it.
Hey, you like
Shout
that
out
alley-oop?
Jonathan Kuminga as well. He's been giving the Hawks great bench minutes.
21 last
an
night.
NBA player that people have had a lot of intrigue on over the years. So I continue to say it. These NBA playoffs have been very good here in round 1. We're not used to, I think, a ton of parity. So the East will have no sweeps, right? With the Raptors winning last night.
Yeah, no sweeps.
That's pretty unusual, I would venture to guess here. So now we await Victor Wembanyama's potential return. What do we see with the Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic? Can the Rockets make it a series at all? Great storylines.
Also in that Hawks game with the Knicks last night, former IU player OG Anunoby had 29 points to lead the Knicks. He was getting it done.
Yeah, OG's been good, but to James's point, not been enough for the Knicks.
You mentioned Toronto defeating the Cavaliers last night, 126-104. The Cavs still lead that series 2-1. The Nuggets, though, shut down for the second game in a row. They now trail the Wolves 2-1. Minnesota 113-96. But They really kept Nikola Jokic, despite the fact that he had a double-double, 27 and 15. Really, he was kept in check last night. Did not have a good shooting night at all, and that propelled Minnesota to that win in Game 3.
Shout out to Jay McDaniels. He said all their defenders are bad. Just go at all the bad defenders, and he backed it up because they looked awful on defense last night.
20 points, 10 rebounds for him last night. Major League Baseball, Mark, the beat goes on for the Chicago Cubs as they win last night in 10 innings with a walk-off single. They've won 9 games in a row. The Phillies, who they defeated, have lost 9 games in a row. You must be having a blast watching that team right now.
Brooms are out for the Phillies. Can they stay out for the Dodgers? Can make it 10 in a row today. We'll see.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that for you as the Cubs win that one by a score of 8-7. And a full schedule later on tonight. Late, the Cubs going to play Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers. Will you be staying up to watch that one, Mark?
Yes, I will, actually.
All right, the Reds will be hosting the Detroit Tigers tonight. That one has a first pitch at 6:40. White Sox on the road to take on the Washington Nationals this evening. And the St. Louis Cardinals will be hosting the Seattle Mariners at 8:15 first pitch. Over at Victory Field, the Indianapolis Indians will be hosting the St. Paul Saints. That one starts at 6:35. The Fever play their first preseason game of the season tomorrow afternoon in New York against the Liberty. Broadcast starts at 2:30 here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. They'll tip that one off just after 3, the first of 3 preseason games. One of the preseason games at home a week from Saturday. They'll be playing the Brazilian national team over at the Fieldhouse.
I thought it was the Nigerian national team.
I thought maybe
Nigerian.
Is it Nigeria?
Yeah.
I maybe was thinking of last year.
Brazil last year with Tamir Dantas.
That's what it was. Thank you for helping me out there. Anything else you guys want to throw in?
IU's spring game last night. I was a sicko and watched all of it. And I thought IU's defensive line was outstanding. Now, granted, their offensive line, missing some notable guys, but I was very impressed by some of the new faces to go with the Tyreek Tucker and Landinos that are returning there. Josh Hoover, under some pressure early, maybe had an errant or two throw, but I thought he settled in as the first half moved. They only played a half as the first half moved along. Nick Marsh, you can see his talent certainly there as one wideout gets drafted last night. You can see why the intrigue is there for the Michigan State transfer for sure. Shout out to Tyler Cherry. Great to see the Center Grove quarterback back on the field. He got a little bit of run there late, so in Kurt Signetti fashion, a lot of improvement he pointed out needed, but it looks like a nice reload in Bloomington.
All right, coming up in a moment, more on the Colts and what to expect tonight. A couple of rounds for night 2. We'll do that for you and take your thoughts and comments as well, 239-1070. It's the Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Coverage of the NFL Draft starts at 7 p.m. tonight, an hour earlier. They got a couple of rounds to squeeze in, a little bit shorter between picks. What are you thinking, Kevin? Probably first half of the second hour for the Colts to get to 47, or right around top of the hour, 8 o'clock, somewhere in there?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, what are we, 7 minutes? Is that right for round 2 here? So I guess we knock a minute off, 5 minutes for round 3, and obviously we await a trade back. James, what do you think would be a successful Friday night for the Colts?
I think if you're able to address edge rusher, get somebody you think can help you immediately. I know Chris Ballard referenced getting like a fastball kind of player. You can get that dude tonight, as well as I would say a linebacker that can start right away as well. You're in good shape. But the best case scenario, trade back and you get 3 picks and you're able to address 3 needs. And I would probably rank my third one as wide receiver.
Wide receiver, I think, is really interesting to me because I'm still in the D-end linebacker camp. Wide receiver, I'd put just on that second tier. I think it's time that, like, the Colts tap into kind of the new age positional emphasis, if you will, that college football is giving the NFL. College football has become a pass-happy league. I mean, all these dudes. 7-on-7 is infiltrating the entire football world, so it's much more of a pass-happy game, frankly, at all levels, you could say that. So, you know, when I look at the Colts' history under Ballard, he's drafted, I think, some good wideouts, but the good wideouts, I think, have been, you know, earlier. You know, when I look at kind of the day 3 wideouts, obviously, I have realistic expectations. I'm not expecting, you know, every day 3 wideout to be whatever, Pierre Garçon, if you want to look at the previous era of a great day 3 pick. But, you know, when I look at guys like Deion Kane or Desmond Patman or Mike Strawn or Darius Fountain, you know, the day 3 wideouts the Colts have attempted to draft in the Ballard era, really none of them have done anything of note. You know, honestly, more guys like a Chester Rogers or Ashton Dulin has done a little bit more. So, you know, I look at it as, okay, if you go DN linebacker tonight, maybe round 4, round 5, then you pick a wideout. Can that guy be like your number 3 wideout for 3 to 5 years? Like that would kind of be my expectation. I'm not, you know, again, Pearson Downs, like I get it. They've drafted some good wideouts early, but in this day and age of college football with so many receivers being sent to the league, can you get that? Can that be a part of your draft class? I don't think it'll make or break your draft class, but I think it would be important just to provide a little bit of depth at that position.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, Kevin, I think that when we talked to Chris Ballard about the depth of the wide receiver room, and he mentions Ashton Dulin, I'm always thinking, well, every year it seems like Ashton Dulin pulls a hammy or has a soft tissue injury because he has to play so many snaps once he does have to step in as a more featured receiver. And I'm not saying he can't do that. He's a great player and has had a hell of a career. Being undrafted out of Malone, the only player in Malone history to be in the NFL, and probably the last one because they don't have a football program anymore. Fun fact for you there for the listeners. But my point is, with him, he's so good on special teams where I think you still have to lean into that. He was an all-pro at special teams. So if you can backfill and get a receiver that, you know, perhaps has some special teams qualities, but can really slide in as at number 3, number 4, I'm good with that.
They got 1 pick tonight in the second round, 1 pick in the third round. And so for those who've been watching the draft all night last night or even all night tonight, 2 picks for the Indianapolis Colts. If you're a Colts fan and a big draft fan, it's been slim pickings for you. I'll ask you the same thing I asked James a little while ago. More likely that the Colts keep number 47 tonight or they trade back?
Yeah, I would say trade back. You know, it is kind of funny, like, how much conviction I have in saying that, though, because it does take 2. You know, like, I thought the Chargers, actually, I don't know if you guys caught this on social media, the Chargers put out a great video behind the scenes of how trades work in the draft, and they mentioned, you know, kind of something that maybe fans don't fully realize is both teams have to call the NFL and inform them of the trade. And if that is not done by the end of the clock, then done. You simply are moving on to the next pick. And last night you saw, they're actually playing it right now on ESPN, some of the chaos with Mekhi Lemon, who was on the phone with thinking he was going to be a Steeler, and then the Eagles came trading up and ended up taking him, which is pretty ironic considering where the draft was and all of that. So, yeah, that would be, I think, the goal for the Colts is to trade back, acquire another day 2 pick. But, the foregone conclusion of it is not a guarantee. Like, I will say it's a little scarce in how many teams can do that. I mean, I'd have to look a little closer at the draft board, but I know the Rams are a team. I believe the Seahawks are a team. Basically, you have to find someone that has a back end of the round 2 and likely a back end of a round 3 pick.
The Bears have 2 second-round picks tonight because they have the DJ Moore acquisition from the Buffalo Bills. So they have 57 and 60.
But
is that something that you would be interested in?
You'd be so mad at the Bears, Mark, if they traded 57 and 60.
I don't think they're going to get both. I think they would give one and then maybe like a mid-round or early day 3 pick.
See, the Colts want 2 day 2s.
How about, let's see what they got here.
I mean, if you look at the Rams.
57 and 89. How about that?
Plug that into the trade value chart, I think you would be irate. I mean, you need something, I think, in the 60s and the 90s to really, and maybe, Mark, if your Bears did that, the Colts would then throw you a round 5 selection or something like that to offset the difference there. So I know we're getting a little nerdy here into some of the trades, but it's something that the Colts full well want to do. It's just accomplishing that will be interesting to see. And then again, I mean, what if there is a player there that you didn't think would be there? Is D'Angelo Pons that player? Would D'Angelo Pons at 47 make the Colts say, it's not worth trading back? We didn't think he'd be here.
I tell you what, I would give it more thought than perhaps some others would. And I understand you've invested a lot in cornerback already, Jeff, with Sauce Gardner and the picks you gave up for him and Charvarius Ward, with the big contract you gave him last year and Justin Wally being a 3rd-round pick last year. But D'Angelo Pons is a baller. And part of me just thinks if he's a dude, get the dude.
And to your point earlier, Kevin, the NFL has become such a 7-on-7 league. And you're seeing 3 and 4 wideout sets all of the time. You need 3 or 4 really good cornerbacks in today's world.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's turned into a pass-happy league. So, depth at wideout, especially depth at corner, the Colts have their hand fully raised from last year. Would be speaking of that.
Coming up in a moment, we'll talk more about what to expect from day 2 in the NFL draft. Also, other things on tap for the weekend as we continue on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good morning on a Friday. NFL round one of the 2026 NFL draft is in the books. As expected, Fernando Mendoza from Indiana does indeed go number one overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. Indiana also had a second player go in the first round, Omar Cooper Jr. at number 30 to the New York Jets. Dylan Thieneman, the former Purdue player coming out of Oregon, goes number 25 to the Bears. Couple of players, both running backs from Notre Dame, number 3 overall. You had Jeremiah Love, number 32, Jadarian Price. Ohio State had 4 of the first 11 picks last night, and the Rams selected Ty Simpson from Alabama at quarterback at number 13 overall. Those are the highlights. This draft update brought to you by Bet365. With Bet365 early payout, you win even if they lose. Get paid out instantly when your team goes up big, even if they blow the lead later. Bet365. Winning is everything. If you've got a gambling problem, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Must be 21 or over only. Must be physically located in the state of Indiana. So those are the highlights of round one right there. And now the Colts get ready on the clock at number 47 a little bit later on tonight. And I guess the big question is, we've been talking about it for really weeks now and days. Now that we know a little bit about how round one went, do the Colts keep number 47? Do they try to trade back Chris Ballard's special and end up with more picks in the draft overall, take more, I don't know, dart throws? Or maybe, as you said, Kevin, there's just somebody that falls and you're like, wow, didn't expect that guy to be at 47. I'm going to stay here and take him.
Renegade Mark Dykton
played it loud and proud ahead of the NFL draft yesterday.
Boy, the yellow towels were really, really flowing when that was played quite often. I'll still never forget hearing that in Heinz Field as Antonio Brown was humping the goalpost as he had just taken another punt back for a touchdown against the Colts.
So every time you hear Renegade, that's what you see Antonio Brown
thrusting from Antonio Brown.
I picture the terrible towels and the thrust of the goalpost there a few times from Antonio Brown.
Oh, man.
Yeah, again, I think so much of it will obviously depend on how the board unfolds. You still have, 15 picks until the Colts select, so a lot can happen within those 15 selections. Mark, your excitement level when you saw your Bears take Dylan Thieneman out of Westfield at number, 25 overall?
25. Did the silent fist bump. Did yes.
So you're a fan?
Yeah, I liked it. Like I said, I didn't really think, of course, pass rush is top of mind for the Bears, but I also, like I said, leading up to the draft, Thieneman didn't seem like a realm of possibility for the Bears. So when he started falling, I was like, okay, let's see what the Lions and the Vikings do here, because he's been mocked to the Vikings quite a few times from what I had seen. So when they didn't take him and he kept going, I'm like, okay, we might be in the running here for that, barring a trade up. And certainly he fell to 25 and the Bears selected him. So that is a dangerous secondary, I would say the Bears have back there.
Yeah, so Vegas, the unders hit on both of those selections there, I guess over if you want to go off of the numerical value. But Dylan Thieneman was projected by Vegas 18.5 was his over-under. He went 25. Omar Cooper Jr. was at 21.5. We saw a lot of wide receiver drama around that selection with Mekhi Lemon ended up going to Philly at 20. But Omar Cooper Jr. does sneak into round one. The Jets traded back into round one to take him at 30 overall.
Aaron from Minnesota writes in, Mark, did you see that Dr. Britt Baker was at the draft in Steelers gear last night?
I did see that. AEW wrestler Britt Baker. She's also a dentist on the side. So, yeah, she was loud and proud big Steelers fan.
Does she work on a lot of the wrestlers when they have dental problems after a big royal?
I don't know. She has her own practice in Florida, so I have no idea.
Speaking of wrestling, you guys informed me that Brandon Phillips' significant other is Jade. Is that correct?
Jade Cargill, yeah.
Brandon Phillips, one of my all-time favorite Reds. He's going in the Reds Hall of Fame this week.
Yeah, a big week. They announced that earlier this week, right?
That's cool. She tweeted out, "Congratulations, can't wait to celebrate." So he's signing a one-day contract that I guess will make him a lifetime Red. So there you go.
Love that.
I don't think there's any company I've worked for that would allow me to come back and sign a one-day contract. They'd probably be like, you know what? We're glad you're gone.
If they did, they'd be like, you're working, by the way. You're not just signing and leaving.
Yeah, it's a one-day contract, but James, can you give us a complete breakdown of what you expect the Pacers to do on draft day?
I've only had one job in my life where I just walked off the site. It was one of the best feelings in the world, but I wouldn't recommend doing that regularly.
What was the job?
This is right out of college. I just needed some money, so I went and worked at a Lego warehouse nearby my house where I grew up in Romeoville, and they wanted me. It got slow, and since I wasn't a temp worker, they couldn't send me home because they had to like keep paying me for the 8 hours that I was supposed to get. So instead, they wanted me to go from the slow warehouse to a busier one in a nearby suburb. And Legos are heavy, if you haven't noticed. Like, seriously, like the people that buy like the huge Harry Potter castles that are over $100 and all that, those people are not good people, in my opinion. They didn't think about my back when I was doing that work. So, yeah, I had got my first high school job as a high school sports reporter, and I knew I was going to be starting in like a week and a half. I just left. And they called me and was like, hey, what about your vest and whatever? I'll just take it out of the check. It was done.
I dig it.
Look at that. 2 birds to Legoland from James Boyd.
Oh, it was horrible. I mean, again, my parents cannot afford all that stuff, so maybe that's a little indictment on them. But
Legos are so expensive.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much they were expensive. They were, and how big, again, massive, 50-pound boxes and stuff.
Well, and I say this in all seriousness. I went to took Max to that Lego World or whatever it was at the fairgrounds a few weeks ago. The secondary ticket market for Legos, I had no idea, is like through the roof.
Yeah. So if you need a Lego plug, I'm your boy.
You guys ever go to Legoland? Have you taken the kids to Legoland?
Yeah, I just said I went a couple weeks ago over to the fairgrounds.
No, but I mean, like, there's actually, like, in Florida, a Legoland amusement park.
Oh, no.
Yes, we have.
I went to the fairgrounds.
There's roller coasters, haunted houses, there's the whole thing.
KB went to the bootleg version.
Oh, wow.
The one in Florida is in the middle of GD nowhere, by the way. Like, it says Orlando, like, nearby.
It's
I'm like,
like an
no,
hour
it is
drive.
not.
It's like an hour drive, Mark.
Every time I've done that twice, and I'm like, I don't know where the hell I am at right now. I could be driving in a swamp for all I know.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, though, that little walkthrough where they've constructed all those Star Wars things, especially life-size Darth Vader out of Lego, that's pretty impressive stuff. Entire cities they've created out there. It's pretty cool. All right, coming up in a moment, we will talk a little bit more about the Colts and what you expect them to do, what you want them to do. A lot of thoughts and comments coming in on the text line. We'll get to some of those. Pat Boylan will join us at 9:30 in the next hour. Thanks for staying with us. It's the Fan Morning Show on a Friday, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
When you're looking for a new car, you are certainly looking for affordability, and you're looking, I think, for some variety. What are your choices out there? Well, good news. The Andy Moore Group campus out in Avon is a great one-stop shop for you. That campus includes Kia, Volkswagen, Toyota, and Nissan. So 4 brands right there off of Rockville Road. Inventory-wise, we're talking over 750 new vehicles. If you want to go to the used front, over 650 used vehicles. And again, affordability is so much of the name of the game. Of those new vehicles, over 300 180 under $30,000, and over 300 of the used vehicles under $15,000. So great inventory, great affordability, whether you're looking for the used vehicles, 300 under $15,000, or the new vehicles, over 180 under $30,000. Kia, Volkswagen, Toyota, Nissan, it is the one-stop shop there off of Rockville Road in Avon. Check out the Andy Moore Group campus today.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Just do one thing for me. Get Mendoza.
With the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, Indiana.
The first Indiana player drafted number 1 in the common draft era.
The last 5 months has been such a blessing by God, and I can't thank him enough. I'm just looking forward to get to work, prove at the next level. College was fantastic. I'm so blessed to have that career, but now I step into a great game of the NFL. Look forward to proving and earning it every single day.
The Arizona Cardinals select Jeremiah Love, running back, Notre Dame. The Chicago Bears select Dylan Thieneman, defensive back, Oregon. The New York Jets select Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver, Indiana.
The Seattle Seahawks select Jadarian Price, Notre Dame.
Until Monday morning strikes again. We are the kings of the weekend.
Big weekend coming up for the Indianapolis Colts. They've got number 47 tonight in the second round. Then they've got a 1/3 round pick. Is it 113 overall, if I'm not mistaken? But they
third round pick is 78.
Or 78. Tomorrow is,
fourth round. They have their own second, third, fourth, and fifth.
Yeah.
Their sixth rounder is a Pittsburgh pick via the Michael Pittman Jr. trade. And then they got a couple compensatory picks in round 7.
Mm-hmm. And if anything holds true, the one thing Chris Ballard does like to do is trade back James Boyd. And right now they're sitting there at 47 and 78 tonight, 113 tomorrow. Could we see 3 or 4 picks in these next couple of rounds for the Colts?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think they're going to trade back. Now, it takes 2 to tango, as Kevin and you have pointed out throughout the show. But I think the Colts will ultimately find a way to slide back, especially if the board doesn't really fall the way they want it to. And I think that's a real possibility because the later you get in the draft, the more unpredictable it is and the less likely it is for you to end up with sort of your dream selection. So we'll see. But I think beyond just the Colts purposes, or I guess adjacent to the Colts purposes, I'm very curious to see where D'Angelo Pons ultimately goes. Because if he's there at 47, boy, I would be inclined to just take him. Now, I understand there's other needs for your team, but I was having this debate actually when I stopped by Curry and Company with Jake. And yesterday, Jake was saying, is it best player available at 47, or are you trying to go with more of a fit thing? And he kind of laid it out as like a sliding scale where it's not like a binary decision where you're just going one or the other. You kind of have to marry 2 ideas and figure out, okay, where is the, medium that we can be okay with passing on a guy, for example, of D'Angelo Pons is, stature and talent, but also realizing that might not be our best position of need.
Picks, again, 47, 78, 113, 156, 214, 249, and 254. But here are the losses, guys, that they've been trying to figure out. Kwity Paye, gone. Braden Smith, gone. Michael Pittman Jr., gone. Zaire Franklin, gone. Nick Cross, gone. How have they done so far? I don't know if they've replaced frontline guys with those players, but certainly depth has been a thing that they've looked at so far in the offseason.
Yeah, I would argue none of them have been replaced by an outside of the building player, like one for one. Maybe Hakeem Davis-Gaither for Zaire Franklin, but that would be it. Again, last year this time we were talking about Cam Bynum and Travaris Ward. You wrote them in the starting lineup in Sharpie. Those were big contracts. Those were proven players, and in Ward's case, a Pro Bowl talent. That has not been a part of this year's offseason at all. Just listen to the Chris Ballard audio. Mark, maybe rack that up. Where have you gotten better? I think that audio tells you everything you need to know about how the Colts' offseason has gone in the eyes of the GM. That was no spin cycle from Chris Ballard. It was an answer that talked about very little, in my opinion, in terms of substance. Again, this is Chris Ballard earlier this week when asked about where his team has gotten better.
Yeah. Well, I think our depth up front is better. I do believe that. I think the additions of Colby, he kind of gets washed over a little bit, but he started it. he's not really a nose, but because of who he is as a kid, he ended up starting, for Green Bay at the nose, playing a lot of snaps. But we think he gives us some real versatility, as we do with Tillery. We think he gives us some versatility. So I do think, and then with the addition of Clements and Key, and those are all. I think we got better, real depth, and they're healthy. As of right now, they're healthy. So I think that's a really positive thing. I think on offense, we're gonna bet on some development of players. I mean, that's kind of what we've.
So there you go. His answer is what? Defensive line depth, Colby Wooden.
Versatility.
The depth and versatility he provides, and offensive development. Where have you gotten better? I mean, okay, if you want to separate defensive line depth, his second answer was offensive development. To me, I don't know how that answers where you've gotten better.
We've had this discussion. I don't know that they've gotten better. They
have not.
They signed their own guys.
Yeah.
One of whom is coming off a major injury, and the list I just gave of guys they've let go, and I just don't know that unless the plan right now, like the entire offseason plan was re-sign your guys, develop, and make sure you hit big in the draft. That's the plan. That has been the plan.
That first 2 seconds tells you right there.
Yeah, and not to get into a body language psychoanalysis, but James, you have been a part of numerous Chris Ballard press conferences. It usually is not that.
No.
That type of answer where there is a gathering of thoughts, there's a little bit of a stumble, there's a little bit, because to me, body language, I think, can tell you so much. You watch these Mike Vrabel press conferences, I think body language will tell you a whole lot right now about what's going on in his situation. I'm not talking about body language behind a closed door either. So clearly, when I hear that and when I saw Ballard answer the question in the manner that he did, that doesn't give me the most comforting feeling if I am a Colts fan.
Yeah, I just think it's an answer that you can't be honest about. If you gave Chris Ballard True Serum,
but that is honest, is it not?
No, I mean honest about.
He didn't try to fake that answer.
Not necessarily where your team has gotten better, but I meant more so the overarching question of, is your team better? And you can always point to something that you tweaked a little bit, especially with an NFL roster that has 50 guys on it during the season. We got a little better at special teams. You see that kicking competition we got coming up, Kevin? Blake Grupe and, Spencer Schrader, that's nothing to sneeze at. But when you're talking about the overall team, that's the question. Are you better? And that one you can kind of sidestep if you're a GM or a coach and say, we got to wait till the season rolls around and it's early, it's only April. But we know, and he knows, if you give him True Serum today and say, have you gotten better as a football team, he would probably say no.
If you're wondering, 16 trade downs against 5 trade ups in the Chris Ballard era. 16 trade downs. We end up being 18 by the time this one's over.
Yeah, that would probably make sense. Obviously, once you get to day 3, there's been times where they have Kari Willis, I think, is an example of a guy that they coveted in round 4 and ended up trading up quite a few spots, if I remember correctly, for somebody like him. So, yeah, maybe you kind of stockpile and then you maneuver, up around if all of a sudden a player is sitting there that you really, really like. But, yeah, again, my assumption is the main goal for Ballard and the Colts tonight is an initial trade back to see exactly what you can net.
We were talking about body language a moment ago, and one of the more interesting picks last night at number 13, the Rams select Ty Simpson from Alabama, the quarterback. And you want to talk about body language. If you watched any of the post-pick presser for the Rams, they had Les Snead, the general manager, sitting next to head coach Sean McVay. It is clear, the more I see that, and I even saw a still pick of it a minute ago, Sean McVay was not happy with that pick.
Yeah, I saw Nate Atkins, colleague of James at The Athletic, who, of course, now covers the Rams, used to cover the Colts. I saw he tweeted something to the effect of of all the first-round press conferences he's covered over the years, it was the most subdued that he has seen. So, again, oftentimes, words on a paper can look a little different than body language and observation there. And I didn't watch it, but, it sounds like maybe Sean McVay looked a little different.
Well, again, the difference between a general manager looking something as head coach, I think if you're Sean McVay, he's got his quarterback for this year, Matthew Stafford. He wants to go on and try and win another Super Bowl with still some pretty talented folks on that team. He's like, give me a player that at maybe there's a certain position he thought we could really use this guy here, because he just didn't look happy at all.
What I don't understand about this pick is that, again, Ty Simpson did not play a lot of college football. And I'm getting to that point where I start to wonder if people have learned from Anthony Richardson. And I get that Ty Simpson was a better college quarterback than Anthony, don't get me wrong. But he started 1 year, and he was injured throughout that year. And he's a smaller dude. So physically, the traits and stuff don't really pop as much. Now, I could be wrong. I could be sitting here saying he's the next Brock Purdy in a few years, but I don't get that selection when you have a first-round pick next year anyway. You can revisit that down the line. I just feel like when it's year to year with Matthew Stafford, why are you not using that 13 pick to get him a dude or get somebody on defense or whatever to make sure that you're getting over the hump and getting back to the Super Bowl? So we'll see if it pays off, if it works out. But I would just stay away from any quarterback that hasn't played a lot of football, quite frankly. I don't even care if you started. I remember watching a clip of Cam Newton, and it was actually an appropriate clip because, Cam can be off the rails sometimes, but shout out to the former MVP. He was even saying how him getting reps as a starting JUCO quarterback was very influential to his development into being obviously the number one pick and an MVP and an all-pro. Like, this dude has not played. Now, he waited his turn at Alabama. I respect the loyalty to a degree, but I'm not seeing this this sort of reach. And again, we'll see if it pays off.
We'll see. He's going to compete with Stetson.
The 13th overall pick's going to compete with Stetson.
With the backup quarterback.
Yeah, and I get that. You should say that on draft night. You probably shouldn't just come out and say he's going to be the backup. I guess you got to earn it, so to speak. But, yeah, not all that inspiring of some audio there from Mark.
What do you guys think of the Chiefs trading up? We aren't used to a Patrick Mahomes team drafting the top 10. They trade up and take a corner there. And then they come back. What they get as their second pick? I feel like they got something.
Peter
on the
Woods,
defensive line, right? Yeah, Peter Woods. So Kansas City adding a couple defenders to a unit that obviously has had some issues. Now, they did trade Trent McDuffie in the offseason to the Rams. So I think there's a little bit of a need for a corner there. But
as I remember seeing early mock drafts had Jeremiah Love going to the Chiefs. So I was fine that the Chiefs got who they got because I was like, Jeremiah Love goes to the Chiefs. I'll be disgusted.
I know. I don't know what to think about Jeremiah Love going to Arizona. I'm like, what's their offensive line situation? What's their quarterback situation? Did I see Jacoby's not showing up because he wants more money?
Shout out to Jacoby. I believe he won one game last year, and he's holding out, and he probably had leverage to get the money.
Gosh, that's crazy.
I loved this.
He almost beat the Colts.
The CBSSports.com recap of that pick, I loved it. Loved the player. Didn't like Arizona's pick there. Love is a special talent at the running back position. He'll immediately transform the Cardinals' rushing attack. But the C-plus grade is an indictment of the caliber of player the Cardinals got, but the value for a team not built to contend without a quarterback.
So Jacoby Brissett last year, for this person saying they don't have a quarterback, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 3,300 passing yards, 64% completion on the season. Went 1-11, but Jacoby's like, y'all lost, not me. Pay me. Respect to the former Colts legend.
Hard to go 1-11 with those numbers.
You know who the backup quarterback in Arizona is?
Actually, there's no chance. I can't name 5 Cardinals right now.
Okay. It's got a Colts tie.
It better not be Carson Wentz.
No.
I was about to say.
Who is it?
Gardner Minshew. So you got Jacoby and Gardner out in Arizona.
Well, I don't know. Jacoby and Gardner with those guys. I just worry about their offensive line out there. But, on paper, Jeremiah Love, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride skill set or a skill weapon group, that's certainly intriguing there. And again, Arizona and I think the Jets would qualify with the Omar Cooper Jr. selection of the Jets, Kenyon Sadiq, the Oregon tight end at number 16 overall. I think what you're seeing there is you're trying to see maybe a reverse of like, let's get the skill for the quarterback pick. And I assume the quarterback pick for Arizona and New York will come next year. And by all accounts, next year's quarterback class is supposed to have a little bit more substance to it than this year's. So it'll be interesting to watch those two and how that plays out. I mean, I'm a huge Jeremiah Love fan, but the offensive line situation in Arizona is worrisome.
I'm with Mark though, man. If Kansas City had been able to pull off Jeremiah Love, whew.
That was some of the early mocks I saw was him going to the Chiefs. I was like, oh, please no. Like I don't need to see them reap the benefits and land with Jeremiah Love.
Well, and he didn't go to Tennessee either.
No.
Tennessee at 4 was where Vegas thought that was kind of the over-under. So Tennessee taking Carnell Tate, which I think was an early surprise for some people. I think a lot of people did not view him as the top Ohio State guy to go off the field or go off the board, I should say. So yeah, number 4 overall there for Carnell Tate.
Well, it's day number 2 for the NFL Draft. Comes your way tonight. Starts at 7 p.m. right here at 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Anchored by Matt Taylor, Casey Vallier, Charles Arbuckle, Rick Venturi. And, of course, we'll go pick by pick often with ESPN National Radio. Worked very well last night. Great listen, of course. Can't wait to hear Rick Venturi break down the Colts pick or trade back or whatever it happens to be by the time we get said and done. Mark, let's
I heard
check
his
it
audio from Ty Simpson, though.
Possession into the end zone for a
That's what it was.
What was that, Mark? Was that the Jalen Hurts?
That was the Jalen Hurts.
Parting of the Sea?
Kenny Yeboah.
That was also it.
And you know what I feel about that game? Have the Colts beat the Eagles back in that 2022 season? Jeff Saturday is the head football coach.
Horrendous.
Well, I'll raise you one. If Jeff Saturday and company don't blow the biggest lead in NFL history, he's probably the coach.
If seems to be the number one word we associate with the Colts. If
We should have a what-if summer show. All local sports stories on realistic what-ifs. I mean, that's realistic. If you tackle Jalen Hurts and not let him just waltz into the end zone, have Rick Venturi express the type of comments he did right there.
I think that is something we should do because I've mentioned that before. The what ifs, like realistic what ifs.
Because you have a variety of them. Obviously, Halliburton.
that's got to be the biggest what if,
Right, but again, you have different types of what-ifs. You have injury what-ifs. I see people have kind of brought this clip up. I've brought it up before in regards to Dusty May. If you guys remember Florida Atlantic's initial run to the Final Four, they got a very fortunate call late in their win over Memphis. John L. Davis, the Gary kid, ended up hitting the game-winning layup. They got a very, very quick jump ball whistle that benefited them with like 3 seconds to go in the game. What if Florida Atlantic loses round 1? We don't get Dusty May to the Final Four. Do we not get Dusty May to Michigan?
Probably not.
Maybe it happens a year later. Maybe Dusty May's in Bloomington.
The world may never know.
What if Matt Painter would have gone to Missouri? All the great what-ifs out there.
What if Kevin Bowen
So
didn't
much
go
for
to
the
We Grow Hair
halftime
Indy?
speech.
Now it looked like Sean McDermott.
Mark, let's check it down.
He was given a thing on skin cancer.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Mark, just for fun, let's play the announcement of the number 1 overall pick in last night's first round of the NFL Draft.
26. With the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, Indiana.
What a ride over the last, 18 months for Fernando Mendoza. Going from the starting quarterback at Cal, transferring to Indiana. I guess it would be almost 2 years now, but it's amazing what his run has been like over the last 18 to 24 months, Kevin.
Now, is he telling the Raiders, I'll be there on Monday, but I got to go to Bloomington for Little Five?
Yeah, I don't know if he has that kind of sway.
No?
I don't think so.
You guys took some over-unders on how many kids showed up to class yesterday. Out of the 18 students, I believe you guys hovered right around. Mark, you might have said
14?
Did you say under, Mark?
I said under.
I took the over.
10.
Yes,
10?
I win.
And I was so optimistic. I was like, this group listens.
10 is crazy. Dang.
This group cares. This group has passion.
Did they get like 5 points extra credit or anything like that?
Hungover.
Extra credit. College?
Hungover
You give
bums.
extra credit.
You know
never
what I
know.
call those 10?
Just cause. You can do anything you want.
Nerds.
No.
You showed up to class.
I looked at
Kevin
those
Bowen's
10 and I
class.
said, I will remember this at the end of the semester.
You're going to give them some extra credit?
Thank you.
See, you're a great one, Kevin, because I remember I looked at every teacher I had in college, well, 90% of them, and I was like, well, I'll never remember you ever after this class. So
So the thing is, though,
it was a quick pro quo thing.
Yesterday could be the difference, Kevin, between between a 91 and an 89 at the end of the year, right?
Well, do you give extra credit, or Mark, should I just deliver a 6-pack of Keystone Light to all of them?
Is that allowed? You get in trouble with the
Probably
teachers?
not
board?
allowed, but you know what?
Hello, fellow kids. I just wanted to bring you some natural light.
Yeah, a little sunshine.
Do they even make Mickey's Big Mouths anymore?
Oh, of course they do. You just got to go to the liquor store or your local gas station.
Can you imagine a professor handing those out?
Kevin Bowen with his leather-patched elbows.
Mendoza goes number 1 overall. Omar Cooper Jr., one of his wide receivers, number 30 to the New York Jets. Dylan Thieneman, formerly of Purdue, late of Oregon, goes to the Chicago Bears at number 25. That made you happy, right, Mark?
Very happy. Very excited.
Notre Dame, a couple of first-rounders, both of them running backs. Jeremiah Love, we spoke about a moment ago, to the Arizona Cardinals at number 3. Jadarian Price at number 32 goes to the Seahawks. Were you surprised at that one at all?
Not really. It seemed like with the Kenneth Walker, that free agency going to Kansas City, that Seattle needed a running back. That was kind of rumored, leading into last night. And remember, Price is a very good kick returner, which I don't want to scoff at that. I think we saw firsthand. The Colts, kick returns matter in today's NFL. So if you've got an elite guy back there, it can really change a game. Hell, Colts-Seahawks was one of those games last year.
Also of note, we had a quarterback, Ty Simpson, go number 13 to the Rams. We've talked about that extensively today, but it sure seemed like the general manager was making that pick, and Sean McVay didn't feel very excited about that one, James.
Yeah, that was a weird one. That was my draft day 1 shocker for sure.
Ohio State had the most number of first-round picks, 4 of them, and all 4 came in the first 11 selections. A lot of talent there.
Yeah, as is always the case for the Buckeyes.
Day 2 tonight, Colts pick at number 47 overall as we stand right now. Edge, linebacker, safety, or wide receiver, if you had to go in order, what would it be, James, all things being equal?
You should throw a lot of positions at me. I'm going to say edge, linebacker, wide receiver, and then safety. Just get a guy off the street. It seems to work well around the NFL.
Which one of those 4 you think goes first, all things being equal?
Part of me thinks it should be edge, but, from a pure board standpoint, I do think linebacker will have a lot of value there. But again, I'm probably more of take the scarcity one first. Take the edge first, and it's the bigger positional value. But
yeah, I did mention cornerback, but there's one from Indiana who might be available at 47.
Yeah, we'll see if he gets there. I think D'Angelo Pons is a great player, and had he been 5'11", he would have first-round pick last night. So if he gets to 47, I will be thinking long and hard about him joining the Colts.
All right, NBA playoffs last night. Atlanta takes a 2-1 lead over the Knicks. Minnesota leads 2-1 now over the Nuggets, and it was Toronto staying in the series. They win at home against Cleveland, but the Cavaliers still lead that one 2-1. In Major League Baseball, the Cubs have a 9-game winning streak. They won in 10 innings against the Phillies. Oh, boy. Phillies have lost 9 in a row.
Kevin will be so lucky if he gets to hear this song next Saturday. You want the W flag, Kevin? You want to borrow that?
Can I wear my Hammond Bears shirt to the game?
Sure. You probably get a lot of pictures with yourself. People will be very interested in that.
I got nervous when Mark
I've worn that in Northwest Indiana. People are like, where'd you get that from?
Mark said pictures with himself. I was a little nervous there.
No, you might be at the trough and people will be like, hey, can I get a picture with you?
Seen a lot of pictures right now from TMZ hitting the webs there about one New England Patriots.
Mark would see a famous person at the trough and go, hey, can I get a picture real quick?
Leaning to the left today, huh? I feel you.
Fever open their preseason tomorrow afternoon in New York against the Liberty. Pregame starts at 2:30, tip at 3 here. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Anything else you want to throw in, Kevin?
I did watch the IU spring game. I was one of the probably few that did consume that. I thought Josh Hoover had some nice throws as the game moved along. Defensive line for Indiana really impressed me. I get that IU's had some offensive line injuries here in the offseason. And I just love that, you're watching last night. It's like all these college head coaches are there, and Kurt Cignetti's just, he's mad that the field goal at the end of the first half didn't go as smooth as possible. He's just like, I don't give 2 bleeps about this draft.
Got to get that operation down a little bit better, boys.
You think the Mendoza family's upset with Kurt Cignetti?
No, not at all.
You don't think the Alberto Mendoza thing is bothering them at all?
No,
that's
I really
just
don't.
business. I think
they understand how it goes.
All right,
for some sourcey Mendoza family, maybe not too pleased with Coach Signetti and the Alberto going to Georgia Tech and not getting a chance to start there. So,
Well, sorry, but here's the reality. He was not going to get that opportunity. I mean, the stakes have changed. Like, if this was the old IU, he would have got a chance, no joke. But the standards are different now. You got to go get a dude that's proven he can play at that level already, in my opinion.
Coming up next, we'll talk to Pat Boylan. He'll give us the latest update on how things are progressing for the Pacers in this early part of the offseason. Also, he starts a busy season with the Indiana Fever. Question is, how many games will he be able to call with them being on national TV? I would still think a few, but we'll talk about it next. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Heading into the weekend, and always a good time to talk to our next guest, one of my favorite folks to listen to, Pat Boylan of the Pacers broadcasts, TV and radio, and clearly voice of the Indiana Fever in a lot of ways, joining us now on the Payless Liquors hotline on the eve of the preseason for the Fever and a busy time of just a lot going on. Also, the Pacers getting ready for a very important offseason as well. Good morning, Pat Boylan. Welcome in.
Good morning. Good to be with you all.
It's always good to talk to you. So I know you're going to be a busy guy coming up here quickly. We found out that the Fever are going to be on national TV 44 times. How does that affect your schedule? You going to be all over the place, or what's happening there?
This is the third year where the Fever have had a bonkers number of national TV games, and it's funny how I know when that gets announced, not necessarily based on seeing it, but based on the amount of texts and calls I get. Do you still have a job? So yes, fortunately, I do still have a job, despite the fact that all 44 games are on national TV. Many of these we can run side by side with. So we will have a local package, as we have had the last couple of years. Counting the Ion games, which we get to broadcast as local broadcasters, they take basically the play-by-play, the color, and the sideline, and then they bring in the rest of their crew. So it's not our total local package, but when you combine our local package with the Ion games and the preseason, I think last year we ended up doing 29, and we haven't yet announced that schedule. We're expecting to very, very soon. Kind of got pushed back with all of the collective bargaining agreement delays, but expect to be somewhere in that similar ballpark. So, absolutely thrilled to be gearing up for another season of Fever basketball, and hopefully good health will be the storyline this year, because it of course wasn't last year, and it wasn't the Pacers storyline last year. And so kind of speaking it into existence this year, the next 365 days or so for both franchises hopefully are going to be remembered for good health.
Pat, it was good to see you this week, and I'm sure I'll see you a lot more in the coming weeks as the season gets underway. One player that I've always respected, the way she's approached the game here in this city, is Kelsey Mitchell, first $1 million player in Fever history. How would you define her journey with this team? And for those who don't remember how things used to be, how cool do you think it is for her to experience the fandom, the excitement, the championship expectations now after going through some of the lean years with this franchise?
Yeah, I'm just smiling, James, as you're asking the question, because it brings me back 2018 when she was drafted, fresh out of the Tamika Catchings era. And lean is probably a kind word for some of the challenges that she and the franchise went through. Most franchises, when they lose one of the greatest players of all time, go through a down period. The Fever certainly did. And Kelsey Mitchell stayed true. She, stayed as somebody as part of this franchise that frankly was the face of it for many, many years. And even through so many years where their record, was well below where they wanted it to be, frankly, well below playoffs, she continually put up all-star caliber numbers because the team wasn't good. She wasn't an all-star. And so a few years ago, she got that first all-star recognition, and it's just kind of been amazing to watch all of this snowball for her, see her loyalty paid off. She's been a multi-time all-star now. She was all WNBA first team last year. And you mentioned the contract, the first player in Fever history to sign this maximum contract, which is really, 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 really cool for her and good for the franchise as well. They clearly prioritized Mitchell in the offseason. They were able to get this deal done. And now she's somebody that is becoming a household name. And it's just, it's funny for those who have followed the Fever for the entirety of this, because she has gotten better year after year, don't get me wrong, but this is in many ways, a very similar player that we saw in 2021, but now she's getting the deserved spotlight. She's got the deserved contract. The wins are coming, and I think are going to continue to come. And so for somebody that's shown the loyalty of the franchise that she has, and you know this, James, she's just such a good person.
Yes.
She's so down to earth. She's so easygoing. And I think that makes it easy, very, very easy for her to root for it. And then kind of a cool nugget that I found the other day is that she is going to start her 9th season here with the Fever, and she's going to play. She already has played, but she will continue to play in more games with just one franchise than any active player in the WNBA, Asia Wilson being a close second. Wilson was drafted first in the year that Kelsey Mitchell was drafted second. So it's a cool story of, rags to riches probably isn't the right way to frame it, because she's one of the top players in college basketball history and a high draft pick and an all-star and all of that. But it's been really cool to see her loyalty rewarded in this way as she continues to play as well as she has.
He's the Carmel Ball State product, the great Pat Boylan, with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Pat, how would you compare the Fever championship aspirations this season if I asked you to kind of throw it for an NBA team in this current playoff bracket? I'm trying to speak maybe to our audience that doesn't follow the WNBA as religiously as you. Is there a Thunder equivalent to the Is it the Liberty? Is it the Fever? Is it the Aces? Would you put maybe the Fever more like a Celtics team, or one of kind of the second tier teams right now? In regards, I hope that makes sense how I'm asking the question.
It does. To be honest, I'm struggling to come up with a direct comparison because I don't think they've quite yet gotten to the Thunder level, who, of course, won a championship last year and have had the best record in the NBA for a few years now in a row. So that's probably more the, maybe the Liberty or the Aces, who were champions last year and have won multiple. But I think their potential and their ceiling is not only right there, but potentially, if things go the right way and you catch some injury luck, I think it's potentially higher. So I think it's unquestionably safe to say that there are legitimate and genuine championship aspirations for this team. And there were last year too. The injuries kind of derailed it all, and yet they were still in overtime in Game 5, a decisive Game 5, to go to the finals a year ago, despite not having Caitlin Clark and despite not having numerous other players. So, I struggle because if I say like Pistons, I don't know that really feels fair, because I think the Fever have a couple of higher caliber players than you might say there. Maybe if Boston was more at full strength with Tatum being back for a longer stretch than he has, maybe it's a San Antonio. I think despite the fact that they're quite different on the court players, there's some Victor Wembanyama and Caitlin Clark comparisons that you can make there. So maybe the closest one is the San Antonio Spurs, but that Spurs team is also so young, and I think the Fever have more experience. So I think unquestionably it's a team that has aspirations of winning a championship this year. And when you have great players like Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell, there's no reason you shouldn't feel that way. And as we know in sports, you need some breaks to go your way, injuries being the main one. They didn't last year. Hopefully they will this year. And if they do, I can't imagine a scenario where you're not talking about this team among the upper echelon in the WNBA.
So, Pat, of course, we can't let you get out of here without asking about Caitlin Clark. First time she will be playing healthy in a Fever uniform, I believe, since last July. So, obviously, she's been healthy for a while, played really good basketball with Team USA in the World Cup qualifying tournament. So, what expectations do you have for her in year 3, just knowing that she's so grateful to be back out there in the first place?
Well, after watching her rookie year, I kind of learned that, at least personally, I don't put expectations on what she's capable of.
Yeah, fair.
She put together one of the all-time rookie seasons and maybe the best rookie season ever for a guard in the history of the WNBA. And we know how motivated she is, and we know how driven she is and how smart she is. And again, with that little bit of health luck that every player needs, if I had to have expectations, I think they're through the roof. I mean, I think when you add the motivation factor, the frustration of last year, as you say, watching her play in that brief couple of weeks with USA Basketball, I mean, I really think all of the stars are aligning for the type of season that could be remembered for a long, long time, including having Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and some of these other players with her. She has just an immense amount of talent around her to help her do her thing as well. So I try not to put expectations on her because she's one of those, each sport has maybe one or two players where you just say anything is possible, and I truly think it is with her. But I think this is shaping up to be the kind of year that when people look back at her career, they might say, okay, this is the one that really jettisoned her into the elite upper echelon of the all-time athletes in the history of this league. She had an unbelievable rookie year, a second year that was unfortunately tainted by injuries. I think this is going to be a major bounce back for her, and I can't wait to see it. I mean, the anticipation just to see her back on the floor. We'll have 3 preseason games here, and then the regular season will start on May 9th. But just the anticipation, it's almost like when she takes one of those 35-foot threes and the ball's in the air, and it feels like it's in the air for like 15 seconds. That's kind of where we are right now, to me, in the Caitlin Clark era of the season. Is you're just waiting for that first game to come, and it kind of feels like the ball is in the air. But
yeah.
I expect nothing other than greatness for her this season, and I think she's going to have one of the seasons to be remembered for a long, long time.
Yeah, Pat, we appreciate the time. And just real quick, I go back to even the season opener last year, and I get that she wasn't fully healthy the whole time, but first game of the year, she had a triple-double. So for those who kind of forgot, the reminders will be here soon.
Yeah, no question. And she had a couple of games early on in that season with some real wow moments. So, I think she is really, really poised for the type of year that she's going to be at the top of the MVP conversation, and hopefully that helps lead to the type of year with her. And, we haven't talked about Lexi Hull or Sophie Cunningham or some of the other players, but I think the Fever have built out a really deep team as well. And depth was a challenge with all the injuries this year. I think it could be one of their strengths this year, too.
Thanks for the time this morning, Pat. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the season. It'll be a lot of fun, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Looking forward to it, gentlemen. Appreciate you having me on.
There he is, Pat Boylan from Pacers broadcast and Fevers broadcast, joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Coming up in a minute, we'll get you ready to go for the weekend. What to look for, what to do, what to pay attention to. It's all coming your way. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
There you go, Mark Dykton. How often are you going to be able to play that moving forward, huh?
Unless he comes to town with the Raiders, I don't know. This might have been the Swan song.
I still thought I was amused by the immediate LinkedIn commercial, the fake interview, and him making a post. And James, we talked about it earlier. Those little buttons you hit on LinkedIn to just like, oh yeah, good job, whatever. It's one of the first comments on his post on LinkedIn about ready to start a new job and everything. Someone said, "Congrats on the new role."
Is there a more miserable app than LinkedIn? Boy.
Have you read Twitter lately?
Twitter has some comedic value. I feel like LinkedIn, you just get on there and lie. I stepped foot on the Colts campus today, and I thought to myself, what would 17-year-old James do with this opportunity? And I'm like, man, all this talking and who got the jobs and who paying? That's what LinkedIn is for.
Has anybody ever actually upgraded to whatever the professional status is on LinkedIn?
What do you mean?
Like they are always trying to sell you some type of subscription on LinkedIn.
No chance.
But has anybody ever done that?
I assume people with real jobs. I don't think we're the LinkedIn audience.
Probably
breaking news here.
All right, Colts pick tonight. What are we getting today? Trade. What your gut says? What, trade down? Or are they actually making a selection?
They're trading back, brother. Do you know Chris Ballard? I know him.
1.8 trade backs per draft is the average.
Yeah,
Chris
I would
Ballard.
say trade back, Mark. Again, I guess mock draft wise, I think I had Jack Golday from Cincinnati going to him, but edge rusher. There's a couple on the board. T.J. Parker, Clemson, Zion Young, Missouri, a couple. Gabe Akis from Illinois. So they got to come away with a couple front seven starters.
Well, we will find out later on tonight. Our coverage starts at 7 p.m. Matt Taylor, Casey Vallier, Charles Arbuckle, and the great Rick Venturi. Listen to it. We'll talk about it Monday, 7 a.m.